Chapter 549. The Danhart Soul Stone was the treasure of the Alchemist Guild. Nie Tian had always wanted it. However, Meng Fanshun and the others were stunned as soon as he spoke. They thought that Nie Tian was being modest by not accepting the position of honorary red-robed elder. They didn't expect him to demand an even more ridiculous reward. Gui snuck a glance at Nie Tian. He knew that with Nie Tian's personality, he would definitely not let go of such a great opportunity to take advantage of him. However, his request was a little too much, and he was sure that Meng Fanshun would not agree to it. Sure enough, Meng Fanshun hesitated. He stared at Nie Tian and wondered if he should agree to Nie Tian's request. The Danhart Soul Stone was the symbol of the Alchemist Guild. Obviously, it couldn't be seen by anyone. Even Meng Fanshun would need the approval of 4 red-robed elders if he wanted to see the Danhart Soul Stone. President Meng, since you're not willing, then forget it. As for the honorary red-robed elder position, I don't want it. I'm a free person and I don't like to be tied down. Nie Tian smiled and was about to leave. Nie Tian, City Lord. Meng Fanshun called out to Nie Tian just as he was about to leave. Meng Fanshun's eyes flashed with determination. If you want to see the Danhart Soul Stone, then I'll agree to it. The other elders were stunned. They didn't expect Meng Fanshun to agree. Nie Tian smiled faintly and thought to himself, Meng Fanshun, it seems that you have some guts. When he rejected the position of honorary red-robed elder, he was hinting to Meng Fanshun that if he didn't let him see the Danhart Soul Stone, then he would have nothing to do with the Alchemist Guild. Meng Fanshun couldn't bear to see such a monstrous alchemist miss out on the Alchemist Guild. Therefore, he agreed to Nie Tian's request. Everyone, what do you think? Meng Fanshun looked at the others. It wasn't enough for him to agree alone. He needed the support of the other red-robed elders. I agree. Gu Yi was the first to express his opinion. I also agree. Kaiyang followed. I agrees too. Lin Yiyuan nodded in agreement. Seeing this situation, the others could only nod in tacit agreement. Even Lien Wenchu had no choice but to agree. All right, without further ado, let's go take a look. Nie Tian was already impatient. He wished that he could immediately see the legendary Danhart Soul Stone. Nie Tian, City Lord, Meng Fanshun said. About the honorary red-robed elder, Nie Tian chuckled and said, President Meng, a red-clothed elder is a red-clothed elder. Why do you need to add the word reputation? How about this? As long as you remove the word reputation, I will join the Alchemist Guild. How about it? Meng Fanshun's face stiffened. He was speechless. Nie Tian was too greedy. He was asking for a yard after giving him an inch. However, he had to seriously consider Nie Tian's suggestion. The Alchemist Guild had an unwritten rule. In order to become a red-clothed elder, one had to be at least a 6th-order alchemist. Nie Tian was at most a 5th-order alchemist. He was still far from a 6th-order alchemist. However, his potential was too terrifying. He was only 17 years old, but already had a 5th-order spiritual force. This was simply beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Therefore, Nie Tian would definitely become a 6th-order alchemist in the future. He just needed a little more time. President, you won't really agree to this little brat's request, right? Lien Wenchu saw Meng Fanshun's serious face and couldn't help but cry out. If Nie Tian became a red-clothed elder, he would be on equal footing with these old men. This was something Lien Wenchu couldn't accept. A red-clothed elder needs to be at least a 6th-order alchemist. His strength is not enough. Another elder said, It's not enough for now. I can guarantee that Brother Nie will become a 6th-order alchemist within 3 years. Gu Yi vowed. 3 years? He only has a 5th-order spiritual force. Give him another 10 years, and he still won't be able to become a 6th-order alchemist. That elder retorted. Gu Yi laughed in disdain. Do you think Brother Nie is like you? Stupid as a pig. Gu Yi. That elder's face turned red. He was about to go crazy. Stop arguing. Meng Fanshun said coldly. I agree to let Nie Tian City Lord be a red-clothed elder. If anyone else has any objections, keep it to yourself. After that, Meng Fanshun didn't look at the other elders' shocked expressions. He said to Nietion, Nietion City Lord, let's go take a look at the Danhart's Soul Stone. Okay. Nietion knew that Meng Fanshun would agree to his request. He smiled lightly and looked at the other elders provocatively. Although Yin Wenshu and the others felt uncomfortable, they didn't dare to show it. Even they had to admit that Nietion's talent was too monstrous. Then, Zhang Tingyin and Elder Yu waited in the inner hall while Meng Fanshan brought Nietion to the Danhart Pavilion. The Alchemist Guild was a 9-story building. Every floor was protected by a mechanism. After going through layers of mechanisms, Nietion and the others finally arrived at the Danhart Pavilion on the 9th floor. This was where the Danhart Soul Stone was stored. Nietion saw a complicated mechanism lock on the door of the Danhart Pavilion. It was protected by a 6th-order spiritual formation. Lin Yuan, Gu Yi, Lien Wenshu, Lu Li, let's open the Danhart lock together. Meng Fanshan called out 4 names. He stepped forward, took out a white key, and inserted it into the mechanism. The 4 red-clothed elders walked over, and each of them took out a red key and inserted it into the mechanism. Click! The 5 of them turned it together. The mechanism made a crisp sound, and the door of the Danhart Pavilion was opened. Nietion nodded. The Alchemist Guild protected the Danhart Soul Stone very well. The key in Meng Fanshan's hand was to open the main lock. Apart from that, there were 4 secondary locks. The 4 red-clothed elders had to turn the keys together to open the Danhart lock. The door of the Danhart Pavilion was opened. A dark tunnel appeared in front of them. Nietion City Lord, you only have 3 hours. Meng Fanshan nodded and said to Nietion. 3 hours was the most he could give. Okay. Nietion smiled and was ready to go in. Nietion City Lord. Meng Fanshan stopped him and said, the Danhart Soul Stone is strange. Do not go within 300 feet of it. Otherwise, your psychic power will not be able to withstand the impact of spirit power. You may go mad. Thank you for reminding me. Nietion frowned. He answered and walked in. As soon as he stepped into the tunnel, Nietion immediately felt an extremely strange aura rush into his body, causing him to feel an indescribable excitement, as if his soul was trembling along with it. Chapter 550. Nietion glanced at the passage in front of him. It was a full kilometer long. From this, it could be seen that the Alchemist Guild was indeed very big. Although he was still a kilometer away from the Danhart Soul Stone, Nietion already felt a very tyrannical spiritual force impact, causing his divine sense to become active. According to Gu Yi, the Danhart Soul Stone was a strange stone passed down from ancient times. It was very strange and was condensed from the purest spiritual force. The main body of the Danhart Soul Stone was in the Alchemist Guild headquarters, while the 7 clones were in the Alchemist Guild branch where the red-clothed elder was. The Danhart Soul Stone could stimulate a martial artist's spiritual force. Within 100 meters of the Soul Stone, a martial artist's spiritual force cultivation speed could be increased by 100 times. If it was the main body of the Soul Stone, it would increase the martial artist's spiritual force cultivation speed by thousands of times. The closer one was, the more active the spiritual force was, and the better the effect. However, the closer one was to the Danhart Soul Stone, the more spiritual force impact a martial artist had to withstand, and the more powerful the divine sense would be. If the divine sense couldn't withstand the spiritual force impact, it was very likely to collapse. If this was the case, the light would be chi deviation, and the heavy would be death on the spot. Just now, Meng Fanshan had warned Nietion not to go within 100 meters of the Danhart Soul Stone, because he was afraid that he was young and frivolous. It would be a pity if such a monstrous alchemist divine sense collapsed by the impact of the Danhart Soul Stone. Nietion walked forward step by step, and, at the same time, he felt the spiritual force impact getting stronger and stronger. The agitation of the divine sense caused the yuan energy in his body to become active. The 9 yuan meridians kept trembling, and the yuan energy in his body uncontrollably surged out, turning into an invisible force that rushed into the meridians in his body. At the same time, outside the Danhart Pavilion, a moving image appeared on the gate. A figure was struggling to move forward, It was Nie Tian, President Ming. He's less than 500 meters away from the Dan Hart Soul Stone. An elder in red saw that Nie Tian was still moving forward and could not help but say, since the establishment of the Alchemist Guild, the highest record was 100 meters away from the Dan Hart Soul Stone. Nie Tian's spiritual force was only at the 51st step, so Meng Fanshan warned him not to go within 300 meters of the Dan Hart Soul Stone, or else his divine sense would be in danger. Let's keep watching. Meng Fanshan nodded. He felt that although Nie Tian's divine sense was surging, it was still very stable. 500 meters was not his limit. Don't worry, Guild Leader Meng. Little brother Nie is best at surprising people. Therefore, I estimate that he will definitely be able to rush into the 300-meter range. Gu Yi was extremely confident in Nie Tian and said proudly. Meng Fanshan frowned slightly. He didn't want Nie Tian to put himself in danger. It was better to play it safe. Inside the Dan Hart Pavilion, Nie Tian continued to walk in. Although he felt that the impact on his spiritual sense was increasing, he became more and more excited. He had no intention of stopping. Master, the aura here is a little strange. Other than pure mental strength, there seems to be another aura as well. Just then, Corpse Lord's voice came from within the Chaos original coffin. Yes. Nie Tian nodded slightly. He had also noticed this, but he didn't show it. Dan Hart's Soul Stone. I like to see what secrets are hidden here. The corner of Nie Tian's mouth twitched, and he quickened his pace. At this moment, he was less than 300 meters away from the Dan Hart Soul Stone. He could clearly see that at the end of the tunnel, there was a strange black stone standing there, emitting a strange aura, as if it was a door that connected to the darkness. The invisible mental impact was getting stronger. Nie Tian felt like he was walking in a storm. The waves of mental strength were like invisible wind and rain blades, tearing at his soul. The pain was indescribable. It made him feel hopeless and helpless, as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. The deeper he fell, the more powerless he became. It's 200 meters. Nie Tian endured the torture of despair. Although his divine sense was a little blurry, it was still very clear. He could already see the outline of the Dan Hart Soul Stone. It was a giant black stone that was tens of meters tall. Its surface was very smooth, but upon closer inspection, there were some strange words carved on it. What was even more strange was that these strange words were emitting a very unique aura. Words condensed from rules. Nie Tian suddenly realized that the strange words on the Dan Hart Soul Stone were actually condensed from the power of rules. Master, don't you feel that the words on the black stone are a little familiar? The Corpse Demon King seemed to have sensed something and said in horror. Familiar? Nie Tian was slightly stunned. The next moment, his expression changed. He suddenly thought of something and his body froze. The strange words on the Dan Hart Soul Stone were strange and unusual. They were like tadpoles. They were indeed very familiar. They were exactly the same as the runes on the Star Soul Tablet. Could it be that the Dan Hart Soul Stone and the Star Soul Tablet have something to do with each other? Nie Tian immediately lost his composure, and a bold guess emerged in his mind. The runes on the Star Soul Tablet were also condensed from rules. Perhaps the two really had something to do with each other. The power of rules was the natural law of heaven and earth. Only when a martial artist reached the heavenly evolution realm and above, with the true meaning of heavenly evolution in their body, could they touch the threshold of the power of rules. But even at the celestial being realm or celestial emperor realm, martial artists could only use the rules of heaven and earth. It was absolutely impossible to change the rules of heaven and earth. Before getting the Star Soul Tablet, Nie Tian never thought that someone could directly condense the power of rules. But the Star Soul Tablet made him understand that the power of rules could not only be moved, but could even be changed and controlled. So now that he saw the words condensed from the power of rules on the Dan Hart Soul Stone again, he was not so surprised. Nie Tian took a deep breath and stopped. He began to compare the words on the Dan Hart Soul Stone and the Star Soul Tablet one by one. To his disappointment, there was not a single word on the two. These words were very strange. They were crooked like tadpoles. Rather than saying they were words, it was better to call them some kind of runes. Maybe the Star Soul Tablet and the Danhart Soul Stone were both created by God Realm martial artists. There is no connection between the two. Nyet Tion frowned, unable to hide his disappointment. And just as Nyet Tion was feeling extremely disappointed, the outside of the Danhart Pavilion was in an uproar. President Ming, Nyet Tion is within 200 meters of the Danhart Soul Stone. A red-clothed elder screamed, his eyes wide open. He really is here. Another followed. The surprise in his eyes was even greater than the former. Gui and Yongkai were also shocked at this moment. They did not expect that Nyet Tion could really withstand such a strong spiritual impact. Both of them had entered the Danhart Pavilion before, but they both stopped at 200 meters. But at that time, their spiritual power was close to the 60th rank, while Nyet Tion's spiritual power was only at the 51st rank. What a monster! Gui gulped and said fiercely. Meng Fan Chun did not speak. He had been paying attention to the halo around Nyet Tion's body on the screen. This halo represented Nyet Tion's divine sense. At this time, it was still very stable. There was no sign of it collapsing. This undoubtedly meant that Nyet Tion could still get closer to the Danhart Soul Stone. Look, his figure is moving again. At this time, Lien Wenchu let out a strange cry and pointed at the screen on the door. Chapter 551. Seeing Nyet Tion's figure move again, approaching the core heart soul stone, the elder's eyes widened in shock. What does Nyet Tion want to do? Gu Yi screamed and wanted to rush in, but was stopped by Yongkai. Don't disturb him. His soul is being attacked by the spiritual energy. Any movement from the outside world will stimulate him. We should just wait and see. Yongkai was much calmer than Gu Yi and said lightly. Gu Yi knew that Yongkai was right and could only nod. Nyet Tion was already 200 meters away from the core heart soul stone, far beyond Meng Fan Chen's warning. If he went any further, he would be in danger. Inside the core heart pavilion, Nyet Tion continued to move forward, wanting to see all the runes on the core heart soul stone. But with every step he took, he felt his soul tremble. After taking 50 steps, he was still 150 meters away from the core heart soul stone. His soul was trembling violently. The sound of an ancient horn seemed to ring in his ears, and the scene of an ancient battlefield appeared in front of him. On the battlefield that stretched as far as the eye could see, tens of thousands of beasts were galloping, and the heavens and earth were shaking. Dark clouds pressed down from all directions, and in the sky, there was a giant bird that was 1,000 meters long flying across, letting out mournful cries as it streaked across the sky. The light and shadow of ancient saints appeared, a huge altar, a golden Buddha statue more than 10,000 meters tall, and a huge palm pressed down. Suddenly, the world collapsed, mountains and rivers shattered. Nyet Tion felt that he was already on the battlefield, merging with the world. His soul was the world and was being torn apart piece by piece. He wanted to stop it, but he was powerless. Master! In this crisis, Corpse Luo Demon Monarch's voice sounded. Huh? Nyet Tion's body shook slightly, and his soul suddenly became clear. The voice in his ears and the illusion in front of him disappeared. The spiritual energy impact of the core heart soul stone was too terrifying. It actually made Nyet Tion hallucinate. 150 meters left. Nyet Tion took a deep breath and felt his blood boil, his yuan qi tumbling, and his soul enduring great suffering. This kind of pain was a heavy blow to his soul. He could not resist it and could only bear it silently. Master, you can't go any further. The Danhart Soul Stone is too strange. If you get any closer, I'm afraid your divine sense will collapse from the impact. The Corpse Demon King said in a deep voice. At this moment, Nyet Tion was not the only one suffering from the mental attack. The Corpse Demon King was also suffering. Nyet Tion nodded slightly, his eyes filled with unwillingness. He really wanted to know what was recorded in the Danhart Soul Stone. Unfortunately, his spiritual energy was too weak, and he couldn't get close at all. It was also impossible for him to clearly feel the rule power on the Soul Stone. I'll cultivate here for 3 hours. Nietion sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began cultivating. Although he could not get close to the Danhart Soulstone, he certainly would not miss such a good opportunity to cultivate. Even if it was only 3 hours, it was still a huge opportunity for him. Nietion had the Primal Chaos original coffin, so 3 hours was equivalent to more than a day for him. He could feel that in this position of the Danhart Soulstone, the spiritual force was abnormally active, and the cultivation effect was hundreds or even thousands of times better than usual. Therefore, 3 hours of spiritual energy cultivation was equivalent to several years of cultivation for Nietion. At the same time, outside the Pilheart Pavilion, he's sitting down. Gui's eyes flashed, his heart finally relaxing. If Nietion continued to walk, he really didn't know what would happen. President Meng, what is the distance between him and the Danhart Soulstone? Yang Kai calmed down and asked Meng Fanshun, seemingly not believing his own judgment. Everyone present was an old monster with spiritual energy above the 60th order. As long as they looked around, the distance within a kilometer would not be more than half a meter. This was a terrifying perception. Meng Fanshun let out a long sigh and said, 148 meters. 148 meters. Everyone else was stunned, the shock in their hearts showing on their faces. They were all people who had entered the Pilheart Pavilion before. Meng Fanshun had entered 3 times, and the best time was when he got within 150 meters of the Danhart Soulstone. This was the first time Nietion had entered, and his spiritual energy was only at the 51st order, but he was actually able to get within 148 meters of the Danhart Soulstone. This was incredible. Of the 8 people present, 1 was a white-robed elder, and 7 were red-robed elders, representing the peak of the alchemic Tao in the 3,000 small worlds. But at this time, they were beaten black and blue by a 17-year-old boy. These people were once famous alchemy geniuses, but compared to Nietion, their talent couldn't even be considered trash. Nietion was too strong, so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. Inside the Pilheart Pavilion, Nietion sat cross-legged, his whole body dripping with sweat. There was a faint white barrier around his body. It was actually formed by the purest mental energy. Nietion resisted the soul shock, calmed his mind, and continued to absorb the spiritual energy. As his mental strength flowed into his divine sense, a miraculous scene occurred. The star power on the raw star stone began to awaken in patches. Nietion felt waves of star energy pouring into his 9 elemental meridians, and the elemental force in his body began to surge. Awesome! Nietion was overjoyed and couldn't help but roar. Previously, he already knew that the increase in strength could bring about the awakening of star energy, and the awakening of star energy could increase spiritual energy. He didn't expect that the reverse process could also work. The increase in spiritual energy stimulated the awakening of star energy, and the awakening of star energy strengthened his strength. Nietion was immersed in the joy of rapidly becoming stronger. Unknowingly, 3 hours passed quickly. Outside the Pilheart Pavilion, Meng Fanshun's eyes widened in shock, and he said, "He's still not out?" 3 hours had passed, and Nietion had exceeded the time limit, but Meng Fanshun didn't have any intention of blaming him. The reason he set 3 hours was because he estimated that Nietion could only last 3 hours at a distance of 300 meters from the Danhart Soulstone. But now, Nietion actually lasted at a distance of 148 meters for 3 hours, which was too unbelievable. One must know that as time passed, the spiritual energy that a martial artist had to endure would increase. "President, it's been 3 hours. Should we call him out?" Lien Wenchu's facial muscles twitched as he asked. "No need." Meng Fanshun waved his hand, and his eyes were filled with excitement. "I'd like to see how long he can last." There is a limit to the amount of spiritual energy a martial artist could absorb at one time. Once the limit was exceeded, the martial artist wouldn't be able to withstand it, and there was a possibility that the spiritual energy would backfire and cause dementia. Another 3 hours passed, and the surprise on everyone's faces was gradually replaced by horror. He's still absorbing spiritual energy. Meng Fanshan saw that Niet Tian was like a black hole absorbing spiritual energy, and he was constantly absorbing the spiritual energy around him. Chapter 552. Even though the Danhart Soul Stone was formed from spiritual energy, there was a limit to how much spiritual energy it contained. If it continued to be absorbed like this, it would definitely dry up. The other red-robed elders also looked at Meng Fanshan, hoping that he could stop Niet Tian. Yes, Meng Fanshan nodded. Even though he wanted to see how long Niet Tian could last, the Danhart Soul Stone did not belong to him after all. He's standing up. Just at that moment, Gu Yi suddenly let out a strange cry. In the image, Niet Tian's figure really stood up. Moments later, the door of the Danhart Pavilion opened and Niet Tian walked out. Leader Meng, I'm sorry, I've exceeded the time limit. Niet Tian apologized after he walked out, knowing that he was in the wrong. Niet Tian, how do you feel now? Meng Fanshan did not care and asked hurriedly. At the same time, his divine sense scanned Niet Tian's body, and his expression stiffened. The others were stunned when they saw Meng Fanshan's reaction. They immediately tried to sense Niet Tian's spiritual energy, and their expressions were even more exaggerated than Meng Fanshan's. Leader Meng, are you guys all right? Niet Tian naturally knew why everyone was stunned, but he still asked with a smile. In 6 hours, Niet Tian's spiritual energy had risen from level 51 to level 53. It had risen by 2 whole levels. If news of him increasing his spiritual energy by 2 levels in 6 hours were spread, Niet Tian would definitely be treated as a monster. Niet Tian, your spiritual energy has risen by 2 levels. Gu Yi exclaimed after a while, breaking the silence. Niet Tian smiled faintly and said, It's only 2 levels. What's there to be surprised about? Only 2 levels? Meng Fanshan and the others were about to curse. How could you be so arrogant after getting such a benefit? It was already very difficult to increase one's spiritual energy, especially after level 50. Basically, it would take 5 to 10 years to increase a level. How could Meng Fanshan and the others not be furious that Niet Tian had advanced 2 levels in 6 hours? Although Meng Fanshan felt that Niet Tian's increase in spiritual power was shocking enough, Niet Tian was not satisfied. 6 hours was equivalent to 2 or 3 days for him. In front of the Danhart Soul Stone, it was equivalent to several years. To think that he had only increased his spiritual force by 2 levels, it was really a bit lacking. Fortunately, at the same time that his mental power increased, Niet Tian's strength also increased by 2 layers, reaching the 3rd level of true essence. This made Niet Tian feel slightly better. In the midst of Meng Fanshan and the others' astonishment, a sudden change took place. Clang! A clear and resounding cry suddenly sounded out from the horizon. It was like a great bell, and it actually had a lingering feeling to it. It droned and exploded without end. Suddenly hearing this deafening voice, everyone's spirits were shaken, and they immediately felt an indescribable sense of comfort, as if all the pores on their bodies had opened up. What's that sound? Niet Tian felt that this cry was extremely unusual. He looked up to the horizon and saw a crimson pillar of light shooting up into the sky like a piece of fire cloth, covering half the sky. Meng Fanshan and the others also looked up and saw the crimson figure in the sky, and their faces were filled with shock. To the northwest of the Su-Mi spiritual capital is the Divine Phoenix Peak. The crimson pillar of light flashed by, and Meng Fanshan couldn't help but exclaim when he saw a towering mountain peak. Niet Tian looked over and saw a mountain peak with a unique shape. It looked like a giant bird, and when it spread its wings, it actually looked like it had the power to shoot up into the sky. The surrounding mountain peaks all bowed their heads and gathered around it, as if they were subjects that had submitted to it. Clang! In the next moment, another cry sounded, giving off a strange feeling. It was as loud as thunder and as low as the chirping of insects. Divine Phoenix Peak, what kind of place is that? Niet Tian couldn't help but ask when he felt a strange power from the cry, and it actually made his Yuan meridian tremble slightly. The Divine Phoenix Peak is the place where the disciples of the Mo clan cultivate. Could it be? Gu Yi replied to Niet Tian, but suddenly thought of something, and his expression changed, and he couldn't finish his sentence. Could it be what? Nyetian asked anxiously. Since the Divine Phoenix Peak was the place where the disciples of the Mo clan cultivated, then it was very likely that Mo Rushi was also there. Clang! Then, without waiting for Gu-yi to speak, the third cry sounded, and it was even more powerful than the previous two. It seemed to have a strange power that made people's hearts tremble, and they had the urge to kneel down and worship it. The cries seemed to have endless power, and not just Sumi's spiritual capital, but also the entire 3,000 small worlds could hear it. At this moment, Meng Fanshan remembered something, and his expression was extremely shocked. He said in a daze, "This is the Divine Phoenix Peak's 9 Heavens Phoenix Cry." 9 Heavens Phoenix Cry? Nyetian was slightly stunned, not knowing what Meng Fanshan meant. Gu-yi glanced at Nyetian and forcefully suppressed the shock in his heart, and explained, "The Divine Phoenix Peak is the place where the disciples of the Mo clan cultivate. At the peak, there is a phoenix stone, and it is said that the soul of the ancient divine bird, the phoenix, is sealed in the stone. It is said that the disciples of the Mo clan have the blood of the phoenix in their veins. It can cause the phoenix stone to resonate, and thus obtain the soul of the phoenix sealed in the phoenix stone. However, according to the records of the Mo clan, only by causing the phoenix stone to resonate 9 times can the seal of the phoenix stone be broken, and the soul of the phoenix be obtained. 100 years ago, the head of the Mo clan, Mo Zhaojing, once caused the phoenix stone to resonate 3 times, but he was unable to break the seal. However, Mo Zhaojing's martial arts talent was stimulated, and he was called the #1 genius of the Mo clan in the past 500 years. In the past 100 years, the Mo clan did not produce another genius, so the phoenix stone was silent for 100 years. I never thought that, after 100 years, the Mo clan would once again have someone who could cause the phoenix cry to the 9 heavens. It seems that the Mo clan is going to produce another genius." When Gu-yi finished speaking, his expression could not help but be filled with yearning. The soul of the ancient divine bird, the phoenix, who would not yearn for it? Clang! Just as Gu-yi finished speaking, another cry sounded, and above the horizon, a scarlet-red pillar of light shot into the sky, like a divine phoenix soaring in the 9 heavens. Instantly, the wind and clouds surged, and the sky changed color. Yeah, at this time, even Little Nine, who had been sleeping in the primal chaos original coffin, was awakened and became restless. Phoenix cried to the 9 heavens. After hearing Gu-yi's explanation, Nyetian's nerves tightened, and a beautiful face appeared in his mind. His heart trembled. Could it be Mo Rushi? If there was anyone in the Mo clan who could cause the phoenix stone to resonate with the phoenix cry to the 9 heavens, it would definitely be Mo Rushi. Nyetian knew that Mo Rushi's spirit was the 9 heavens divine phoenix, and it was not strange for it to cause the phoenix cry to the 9 heavens. In fact, it was very reasonable. Clang! At this time, another phoenix cry sounded from the divine phoenix peak. The phoenix cry to the 9 heavens shook the world. "Nya, brother Nya, how many times is this?" He was completely shocked, and his tongue began to spin. "The 5th time," Nyetian calmly replied. The 5th time, it was indeed the 5th time. Gu-yi's expression was dumbfounded, and he did not know how to express the shock in his heart. One must know that back then, Mo Zhaojing had only caused 3 phoenix cries. Chapter 553. The 5th phoenix cry rang out, and the red pillar of light that soared into the sky gradually condensed into a blurry image. It was like a fiery red phoenix that was bathed in blood and reborn. Everyone in the Shumi spirit capital looked in the direction of the divine phoenix peak, their eyes filled with worship. At this moment, below the divine phoenix peak, more than 1,000 disciples of the Mo family lifted their heads to look at the divine phoenix peak, revealing expressions of endless worship. They could feel the endless power within the cry of the phoenix. This power made them feel extremely comfortable, as if it had stimulated some sort of suppressed power within their bodies. Within the bodies of the MO clan's disciples, there was more or less a little phoenix bloodline. It was just that the vast majority of the bloodline's power was too weak and could not be displayed. At this moment, the power of the bloodline was stimulated by the power of the phoenix cry, so it naturally became agitated. Who do you think triggered the phoenix cries to the heavens? Someone couldn't help but ask. That goes without saying. It must be the number one genius of the MO clan, MOU. A young girl of the MO clan said. Her words revealed her admiration for MOU. MOU, the number one genius of the MO family's younger generation, one of the three great evildoers of Su Mi Ling City. If there was someone among the children of the MO family who could cause phoenix cries in the ninth heaven, then the first person that everyone thought of was MOU. MOU was only 21 years old this year, but he was already a spirit wheel expert. Even MO Zhaojing couldn't compare to him back then. Although he was only MO Zhaojing's youngest son, his brothers were all suppressed by him in terms of talent and strength. Therefore, MOU was considered the next successor of the MO family. Perhaps MO Yin is also possible. Although her strength is not as good as MOU's, her talent is not weak. She is only 17 years old and has already reached the first layer of true element. Someone interjected, but was immediately met with disdainful looks from the surrounding people. In the hearts of everyone, only MOU had the qualifications to trigger phoenix cries to the ninth heaven. The others were not worthy at all. At the same time, a few figures flew out from the MO family's residence. They stood in midair and looked in the direction of the divine phoenix peak. Among these few figures, there was a figure with a powerful aura. Although he had already restrained his aura to the extreme, it was still difficult to conceal his majestic aura. This man looked to be in his 40s or 50s. His facial features were resolute, and his expression was stern. His eyes flickered with a sharp light. It's been 100 years. Our MO family has been silent for 100 years. Finally, an earth-shattering figure has appeared. MOU, you really did not let your father down. Huh. Suddenly, a wild laughter rang out, like thunder from the ninth heaven. The entire Shumi spirit capital could hear his voice. This person was none other than MOU's father, the MO family's patriarch, MO Zhaojing. MO Zhaojing, a person who was as famous as Tang Hao, was a legend of the 3,000 small worlds. Under normal circumstances, MO Zhaojing definitely wouldn't appear, but now that the phoenix cries appeared again, of course he had to appear. Clang! His wild laughter had just fallen when, as if in response, another phoenix cry rang out, surging in the peak of the nine heavens. Scarlet flames once again streaked across the horizon, and the sky seemed to be on fire. Mo Xing, how many times has it been? Mo Zhaojing put away his smile and regained his serious expression. He asked Mo Xing, the great elder of the Mo family. Mo Xing's body trembled. He could not conceal his excitement as he replied, Clan head, this is the sixth phoenix cry. At the sixth ring, everyone felt their hearts tremble, and the resonance of their bloodlines became even more obvious. All right, very good. As expected of my Mo Zhaojing's son, to actually be able to trigger the sixth phoenix cry. Mo Zhaojing laughed loudly. In his heart, he had already determined that the person who triggered the phoenix cries to the nine heavens must be MOU. That's right. Sure enough, the student surpasses the master. Back then, the clan had only managed to cause 3 phoenix cries. But MOU actually caused 6 phoenix cries. He truly deserves to be called the number 1 genius of the MO clan. Mo Xing said from the side. In his heart, he was also certain that the person who caused the phoenix cries was MOU. The other elders of the MO family echoed one after another, and their faces were all beaming with joy. When the phoenix cries to the 9 heavens occurred, not only would the power of the bloodline of the person who triggered the phoenix cry be awakened, the other members of the MO family would also benefit from it, and the power of the bloodline in their bodies would become stronger. After this phoenix cries to the 9 heavens, the overall strength of the Mo family would definitely rise to another level in less than 10 years. Clang! At this time, another phoenix cry rang out, resounding between the heavens and the earth, cutting through half of the sky. The seventh cry. Mo Zhaojing's expression slightly stiffened, and he said in shock, "Could it be that Mo Yu wants to trigger the 9th phoenix cry and break the seal of the phoenix stone?" In the Mo family's ancestral records, in the past 1,000 years, the most powerful genius of the Mo family had only triggered 7 phoenix cries. Who would have thought that this record would actually be equaled today, and it was even showing signs of being broken? At the same time, in a remote and spacious area below the Divine Phoenix Peak, a young girl looked at the Divine Phoenix Peak with an intoxicated expression, and her expression froze for a long time. She was none other than the other genius of the Mo family, Mo Yun. There were 2 great geniuses in the Mo family. One was Mo Yu, and the other was Mo Yun. Moreover, the 2 of them were brother and sister from the same father and mother. Mo Yun was the genius of the Mo family, and she had heard of the legend of the phoenix cries to the 9 heavens countless times since she was young. Her heart was filled with endless yearning, and she had personally gone to the Divine Phoenix Peak countless times, wanting to trigger the phoenix cries to the 9 heavens. Unfortunately, she returned in failure every time. Now that someone had triggered the phoenix cries to the 9 heavens, besides being shocked, her heart was filled with an uncontrollable sense of loss. However, Mo Yun was only at a loss, and the person next to her had gone completely crazy. "This is impossible. This is impossible. This is impossible." The figure beside Mo Yun kept repeating the same sentence. His eyes were dull, and his expression was foolish, as if he had gone crazy. If Nie Tian was here at this time, he would be able to recognize this crazy person at a glance. It was the number 1 genius of the Mo family, Mo Yu, who had a life and death duel with him. When the phoenix cries to the 9 heavens occurred, Mo Yu was exchanging pointers with Mo Yun. When the first phoenix cries sounded, he even thought that he had heard wrongly. But at this time, it had already sounded 7 times. Only then did he know that it was not an illusion, but that someone had really triggered the phoenix cries to the 9 heavens. For Mo Yu, this was an unbearable blow. He awakened his primordial spirit at the age of 10, stepped into the manifestation realm at the age of 11, stepped into the giant spirit realm at the age of 13, stepped into the true element realm at the age of 16, and stepped into the divine wheel realm at the age of 20. He was known as the number 1 genius of the Mo family, and one of the 3 monstrous geniuses of Sumi Ling City. The brilliance on his body overshadowed all the other martial artists of the same generation in Sumi Ling City. It was precisely because of this that with countless halos on top of his head, Mo Yu believed that he could definitely trigger the phoenix cries to the 9 heavens. But unfortunately, he had tried countless times, but the phoenix stone seemed to be dead and did not have the slightest reaction. This had almost become a sore point for him, because if he could not trigger the phoenix cries to the 9 heavens, he would not be able to prove his amazing talent. But now, someone had triggered the phoenix cries to the 9 heavens 1 step ahead of him. This was something he could not accept. Impossible. An unwilling voice resounded, and it seemed to be furious and miserable. Chapter 554. The 8th Phoenix Cry. Mo Zhaojing looked at the sky. The bright red that cut through the sky almost drove him crazy. It was the 8th Phoenix Cry. Was the seal of the ancient phoenix stone going to be broken today? At this moment, everyone's heart was in their throats. Countless eyes were focused on the Divine Phoenix Peak, waiting for the last phoenix cry. Once the last phoenix cry sounded, the seal on the phoenix stone would be broken, and the soul of the phoenix would break out of the seal. That would be an earth-shattering scene. At this time, a familiar figure appeared in the distant sky of the Divine Phoenix Peak. It was Nie Tian who hurried over. Although he did not have the bloodline of the phoenix in his body, he could still feel the vibration of the Yuan Meridian in his body. And the 9th extreme chaos beast in the chaotic original coffin was already dancing excitedly. What a powerful seal aura! Nietian was still thousands of meters away from the divine phoenix peak, but he could already feel the endless power of the seal, which made his mind tremble. Clang! At this time, the ninth phoenix cry sounded like a clap of thunder, carrying the power of a thunderbolt. Boom! Suddenly, a red beam of light shot up from the divine phoenix peak. The powerful force dispersed the dark clouds in the sky, drawing the most dazzling brilliance in the sky. Immediately, the invisible energy spread in all directions, and a force that made the soul tremble spread throughout the entire Shumi spiritual capital. Below the divine phoenix peak, all the disciples of the Mo family were going crazy. The power of the bloodline in their body became active, as if it had become several times stronger in an instant, and the potential of the whole body was stimulated. To everyone, the ninth phoenix cry was so clear and exciting that it shook people's hearts. But to Mou, the phoenix cry that sounded in his ears was so ear-piercing and unbearable that it even drove him crazy. I don't believe it. The soul of the phoenix is mine. Of course, Mou understood what the ninth phoenix cry meant. He roared crazily, shouting out the greatest unwillingness and anger in his heart. The ninth phoenix cry meant that the seal of the phoenix stone was about to be broken, and at the same time, it also meant that the soul of the phoenix was about to come out. Mou would no longer have the chance to trigger the ninth heaven phoenix cry. Mou's roar was very loud, but compared to the cry of the phoenix, it was like the cry of an insect. No one paid any attention to his wild cries. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the divine phoenix peak. Boom! At this moment, the divine phoenix peak that was sent into the sky suddenly shook violently, as if the entire peak was about to collapse. Voila! Voila! In the next moment, the two mountains on both sides of the divine phoenix peak suddenly began to sway, as if they had a life of their own and were about to take flight. The soul of the phoenix is about to be born. Nietian furrowed his brows, and his figure hurriedly retreated several hundred meters. He knew that the power of the phoenix soul was absolutely not inferior to the birth of the ancient dragon soul in the Heaven Luo mountain. However, Nietian couldn't see Mo Rushi's shadow, so he couldn't help but worry. In the blink of an eye, he had been separated from Mo Rushi for a year and a half, and he wondered how she was doing during this time. Boom! At this time, the divine phoenix peak shook again, and suddenly, a red light appeared from the peak and spread out in an instant, like a red curtain, enveloping the divine phoenix peak. The mountain peak, which was more than 10,000 feet high, was suddenly covered with a layer of scarlet halo. From afar, it was dazzling, and brilliant. In the next moment, an even more shocking scene appeared. Rumble! With a loud noise, the entire divine phoenix peak suddenly collapsed, and a scarlet halo gushed out from the shattered mountain, slowly converging in the air. Everyone stared at the scene in front of them in a daze, completely unaware of what had happened. And at this time, Nietian slightly wrinkled his brows. He heard an earth-shattering noise sweeping over from all directions. He subconsciously raised his head and saw that above the horizon, countless seven-colored auspicious clouds seemed to have suddenly come to life, pressing down on the divine phoenix peak. Of course, Nietian knew that the moving seven-colored auspicious clouds in the sky were not clouds, but flocks of birds. Countless birds crowded together, like a curtain covering the sky, moving towards the divine phoenix peak. Nietian. At this time, a voice sounded behind Nietian. Turning around, he saw that it was Gu, Yi, and the others. Other than the high-level elders of the Alchemist Association, Zhang Tingyin and Elder Yi were also here. This is the legendary 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. Meng Fanshan was very knowledgeable and immediately saw the clues and said in surprise, "It seems that the phoenix soul in the phoenix stone is really going to be born. 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix." It was also Nietian's first time hearing this, and he looked at the collapsing divine phoenix peak, not knowing what would happen in the next moment. In the sky, As the divine phoenix peak collapsed, the scarlet halo gathered more and more, becoming denser and denser. After a moment, the scarlet halo actually condensed into a 1,000 meters long giant redbird. Phoenix Soul. When everyone saw the giant redbird in the sky, they all trembled, and their eyes revealed a deep sense of worship. It really is the Phoenix Soul. Nietion also gulped. The shock in his heart could not be any greater. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the next moment, the Phoenix Soul spread its wings, which were 1,000 meters long, and reflected half of the sky red. With a sudden shake, it soared into the sky, like a fiery red pillar of light connecting the sky and the earth. Boom! At this moment, the Phoenix Soul's soaring aura completely exploded and gushed out wildly, vast and mighty, as if there was no end to it. At this moment, everyone in Sumi spiritual capital felt their souls tremble. This was a kind of trembling that could not be resisted and could not be stopped. The Phoenix Soul soared in the sky, and an endless stretch of colorful clouds appeared in the sky. Countless birds followed behind the colorful clouds, chasing after the king. This kind of scene was too beautiful, too shocking. It made people reluctant to blink, afraid that they would miss any wonderful scene. At this moment, everyone's ears seemed to be playing beautiful music, like the sounds of nature, intoxicating and infatuating. The heavenly music lasted for an unknown amount of time, and the scarlet figure in the sky gradually slowed down. In the end, it actually stood in the sky, looking down on everything like a phoenix descending from the heavens. After a while, the flock of birds began to disperse, and in the blink of an eye, disappeared without a trace, as if nothing had happened. The 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix has ended. What will happen next? Emo Zhaojing looked at the sky, and his heart trembled. He was still proud of his son, but he did not know that the person who caused the phoenix cry to the heavens was not his son. Before he finished his sentence, the phoenix aura in the air began to surge and quickly gathered toward the Phoenix Soul in the sky. As the Phoenix aura continued to gather, the Phoenix Soul became more and more intense, and there was a faint sign of it condensing into a physical form. There's someone in the Phoenix Soul. At this moment, Meng Fanshan saw a human figure appear in the center of the scarlet light, and he could not help but exclaim, Nietion frowned and looked carefully. Indeed, he saw a figure standing in the center of the Phoenix Soul. Chapter 555. The center of the Phoenix Soul was where the power of the Phoenix was the densest. Who would have thought that there would be a person there? Without a doubt, this person was the one who triggered the Phoenix cry to the heavens. That's the person who's about to receive the inheritance of the Phoenix Soul. He's also the one who triggered the Phoenix cry to the heavens. Meng Fanshan couldn't hide his excitement. What kind of person is able to break the seal of the Phoenix Stone? It should be MOU. Gu Yi said from aside. It wasn't clear if he was answering Meng Fanshan or talking to himself. Nietion didn't pay attention to the others. His gaze was fixed on the Phoenix Soul in midair. He quietly observed the figure in the sky. He was tens of thousands of meters away from the Phoenix Soul. Even if his mental power was at the 53rd level, he could only see a silhouette. But this blurry silhouette gave Nietion a strange sense of familiarity. Mo Rushi, is that really you? Nietion's lips twitched as he muttered to himself. Clang! At this moment, the Phoenix Soul let out another cry that shook the heavens and the earth. This was the final cry of the Phoenix Soul. In the next moment, the Phoenix Soul that was formed from the power of the Phoenix suddenly became distorted, as if it was being pulled by a huge force. The figure in the center of the Phoenix Soul suddenly became a whirlpool that absorbed everything. Endless power of the Phoenix instantly poured into the figure's body. In the blink of an eye, all the power of the Phoenix was completely absorbed by the figure. The Phoenix Soul disappeared without a trace. The divine Phoenix peak returned to peace. The Sumeru spirit returned to peace. The entire 3,000 small worlds also returned to peace. The moment all the red light disappeared, a peerless figure appeared in the sky. At this moment, she stood in midair. Her body was surrounded by a faint red halo. Her entire body emitted a pure and holy aura, giving off a startling feeling. Her thin clothes fluttered in the wind, outlining her graceful and peerless curves. Her crimson hair fluttered in the wind. Her exquisite facial features were breathtakingly beautiful. This was a woman of extreme beauty. For people with insufficient willpower, this kind of beauty was simply an illusion. One look was enough to make people lose their minds. It's not MOU. Even though they were separated by tens of thousands of meters, everyone could still recognize that the figure in the air was a woman, not MOU at all. How is this possible? High up in the sky, Missouri Zhaojing was stunned speechless. His excited expression froze, and he couldn't react for a long time. He had just determined that the person who caused the phoenix cries to the ninth heaven must be MOU, but the person who appeared in front of him at this time was actually a woman. How could he accept this? She's... On the other side, Nyetian was also stunned for a moment. He couldn't believe his eyes, and blurted out a name, Mo Rushi. Although the appearance of the figure in the sky had changed slightly, Nyetian could still tell at a glance that she was Mo Rushi. In the past, Mo Rushi was already a city-toppling beauty. At this moment, she was even more beautiful. It was as if one would be subdued by her astonishing beauty with just a single glance. It had been a year and a half since Mo Rushi came to Shumi Spirit Capital from a small place in Moyang City. But in this year and a half, she didn't have a good time. Although she obtained more cultivation resources in Shumi Spirit Capital, she was also ostracized by her family members. Because of her outstanding talent, many people in the Mo family regarded her as a competitor. Everyone regarded her as an enemy, not a member of the family. 3 months after coming to the Mo family, her father, Mo Tai, was sent to another place and left Shumi Spirit Capital. Mo Rushi didn't do anything other than cultivate every day. She was always worried about one person in her heart. She hoped that person would come soon and take her away from the Mo family, away from this inhumane cage. But she knew that that person needed time to grow. If he came too early, not only would he not be able to take her away, he might even die here. In order to survive in the Mo family, she had to desperately improve her strength. Only with strength could she protect herself. Mo Rushi was very low-key and tried not to attract other people's attention. But today, she came to the top of Divine Phoenix Peak for the first time. Mo Rushi had certainly heard about the legend of Phoenix cries in the ninth heaven, but she didn't think too much about it. She just had the idea of giving it a try. Who knew that she would actually succeed? Oh no, this time it will definitely attract the attention of those people. After obtaining the Phoenix Soul, this was Mo Rushi's first thought. If she had known that she could attract Phoenix cries in the ninth heaven, Mo Rushi would not have come here. For her now, living was the most important thing. She just wanted to wait for Nyetian to come to find her. She didn't care about other things. Mo Rushi looked down, and her beautiful eyes flickered. She thought, this time it's big trouble. If Mo knows that I got the Phoenix Soul, he will definitely kill me. The children of the Mo family knew that in addition to Mo's powerful talent, he was also very overbearing. He regarded the Phoenix Soul as his. If anyone dared to snatch his things, there was only one word for them: death. Mo Rushi was the only person in the Mo family who had a rank 7 origin spirit like Mou, so she was regarded as a thorn in the latter's flesh. If she hadn't been very low-key in the past year and a half, she would have been killed many times already. In fact, Mo Rushi's 9th Heaven Phoenix origin spirit was a rank 9 Supreme origin spirit, but Nyetian had played a little trick on it, so it was identified as a rank 7 origin spirit. If Mou knew that she was a rank 9 Supreme origin spirit, he would have already killed her. The Mo family could only have one genius, and that was him, Mou. Mo Rushi calmed down and checked her body. Suddenly, she found that her appearance had changed. The first thought that came to her mind was, Nyetian wouldn't recognize me, right? However, she immediately dispelled this idea. She believed that even if she became ugly, Nyetian would still be able to recognize her at a glance. Then, Rushi found that her strength had directly advanced to the first level of true essence, and she was suddenly shocked. Although her martial arts aptitude was very good, her origin spirit had awakened too late, and she had missed the best time to cultivate. In the 1.5 years in the Shumi spiritual capital, Rushi's strength had reached the first level of the giant spirit realm. She did not expect that after fusing with the phoenix soul, her strength would directly improve by a great realm. This was an unexpected surprise for Rushi. However, just when she was a little happy, a figure suddenly appeared and flew toward her. Rushi saw the face that was rushing toward her, and her small face suddenly turned white. Although her strength had reached the first level of true essence, compared to who was at the first level of the spirit wheel, there was still a huge gap. Chapter 556. Although Rushi's appearance had changed a little, her hair had become red, and there was a strange and evil aura around her. Still recognized her at a glance. Did not expect that the person who triggered the phoenix cry to the ninth heaven and obtained the inheritance of the phoenix soul was actually Rushi. Although he knew that Rushi's true spirit aptitude had reached the 7th rank, after all, she had already missed the best cultivation age. Her strength in all aspects was below him. Even he could not trigger the phoenix cry to the ninth heaven. So how could Rushi do it? With this doubt in his heart, U's anger suddenly rose. The inheritance of the phoenix soul should be obtained by those with strength. I triggered the phoenix cry to the ninth heaven, so I should obtain the phoenix soul. Rushi's face slightly stiffened. Then she calmed down and said lightly. Rushi had integrated with the phoenix soul, and her strength had directly advanced from the first layer of the giant spirit realm to the first layer of the true essence realm. In the future, her cultivation speed would also be greatly accelerated, far exceeding that of ordinary people. However, her current strength was still too weak compared to MOU. If the other party wanted to kill her, she would have no power to fight back. Good. The inheritance should be obtained by those with strength. MOU smiled coldly, and the killing intent of his whole body became more obvious. He brazenly said, Rushi, do you think you're stronger than me? In MOU's view, the phoenix soul was his. Other people should not act rashly, and those who did should die. Do you really want to kill me? Rushi felt a chill envelop her, and dense beads of sweat oozed from her forehead. She subconsciously took 2 steps back. I want to kill you because you deserve to die. MOU let out a fierce roar, and the aura around his body swelled up. A mighty force suddenly whistled out, and a violent aura suddenly bloomed. An ear-piercing sound rang in the air, and suddenly, countless black blades appeared, attacking Rushi. At this time, many people had already surrounded the 2 figures in the air, and they could clearly see everything. It's MOU, he wants to kill that girl. Someone saw this scene and exclaimed, that girl should be from the MO family, right? Why does MOU want to kill her? Someone asked, I heard that MOU is a tyrannical person who regards the inheritance of the phoenix soul as his own. That girl snatched his thing, so of course he wants to kill her. There was no lack of intelligent people in the crowd. They shook their heads and said they couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If Rushi were to die, then the phoenix soul would disappear along with her. Of course, it would be a pity. Rushi only had the strength of the first layer of true essence, and the most important thing was that she had almost no combat experience. In the face of MOU's fatal blow, she instinctively used her true essence, and a faint red halo appeared around her body. Unfortunately, MOU's strength was too strong. Behind him, there was a faint shadow of a giant black bird. The black blade cut through the void and directly scattered the true essence around Rushi's body. Rushi, accept your death. MOU let out a ferocious laugh. He couldn't wait to see the moment Rushi died. However, just as the black blade was about to pierce through Rushi's body, something happened. Who dares to touch her? A loud roar rang out in the sky. Shortly after, a majestic sword intent appeared and turned into a sword shield that enveloped Mo Rushi. Bang! There was a loud noise, like a sudden clap of thunder, and billowing waves of air instantly surged out. The black blade failed to penetrate the sword-intent shield. Mo Rushi was only sent flying by the impact, and she cried out in panic. But the next moment, she suddenly felt a pair of powerful hands appear and hold her slender waist. Then, a strange yet familiar aura appeared, causing her pretty face to be stunned for a moment. She then shouted out a name, Nietian. At this critical moment, the person who saved Mo Rushi and held her in his arms was none other than Nietian. Nietian, is it really you? Mo Rushi felt a warmth all over her body. She turned around and saw a familiar handsome face. Her delicate little face suddenly froze, and her eyes were almost infatuated, as if she was in a dream. When she was held in the arms of a pair of big hands, there was an inexplicable warmth in her heart. That familiar aura made her almost unable to believe it. The person she thought about day and night was now by her side, and he was holding her tightly in his arms. At this moment, Mo Rushi felt that she was the happiest woman in the world. She hugged the young man in front of her tightly. Her yearning for a year and a half gathered into tears at this moment, flashing in her beautiful eyes. She could no longer control her tears, and they flowed down and scrupulously. Nietian felt the body of the girl in his arms trembling, and the anger in his heart was also trembling. From the scene of Mou trying to kill Mo Rushi just now, Nietian could guess that she did not have a good life in the Mo family. She must have been treated unfairly, ostracized by many people, and suffered too many grievances. Rushi, I'm sorry. I've let you suffer. Nietian hugged the girl in his arms tightly, feeling infinite guilt in his heart. From today on, he would not let anyone hurt Mo Rushi again. You are Nietian. Mo reacted at this time. When he saw Nietian's face clearly, the shock in his heart was all revealed on his face. Never in his wildest dreams had he imagined that Nietian would show up at this moment and block his attack. Suddenly, Mo Rushi also thought of something and screamed. She looked up at Nietian and said, Nietian, why are you here? Although Mo Rushi wanted to see Nietian, it was very dangerous for the latter to appear here at this time. For the past year and a half, Mo Rushi had been staying in the Mo family and never went out. She had no friends, so she did not know any news about Nietian. However, she knew that Nietian and Mo were opposing each other. Now that he appeared here, Mo would not let him go. Mo was now an expert in the spirit wheel realm. He was definitely not someone that Nietian could contend with. Girl, you made such a big noise. If I didn't show up, would you still be able to keep your little life? Nietian didn't pay any attention to Mo at all. He stroked Mo Rushi's little head lovingly and said lightly. Mo Rushi buried her cheek on his broad chest. There was an inexplicable sense of security in her heart. As long as this man was by her side, even if the sky fell and the earth split, she was not afraid. Nietian, I order you to let go of Mo Rushi. Mo saw Nietian and Mo Rushi acting intimately, as if there was no one else around. The anger in his heart flared up again, and he shouted. Although Mo never had any improper thoughts about Mo Rushi, and only regarded her as an ordinary child of the Mo family, the latter's behavior with a man made him feel strange. It was as if something that should belong to him had been taken away by someone else. This feeling was unacceptable to him. Ordering me? Nietian raised his eyebrows and glanced at Mo. At the same time, he hugged the girl in his arms tighter and said faintly, Who are you? Why do you have to order me? Chapter 557. Nietian was slightly taken aback. His body trembled slightly as he shielded Mo Rushi behind him. Taking a step forward, sword intent surged out. At the same time, there was a reaction from the star spirit tablet, and a huge amount of star power gushed out. Boom! The sword intent and star power perfectly fused together, and the power of the rank for Azura demon hand burst out. A bloody ghost hand appeared in the air and crazily grabbed at Mo. Mou felt a boundless aura, and his heart suddenly trembled. Shortly after, his whole body released an even more violent aura. He did not expect that in just a year and a half, Nietion's strength would actually become so terrifying. Pung, pung, pung. In the void, there was a rumbling sound, and a dazzling light surged out. Following that, a rolling wave of chi spread out in all directions. Nietion lightly tapped his foot and retreated dozens of meters with Mo Rushi. He said indifferently, "Mou, is this your strength?" Sumeru's spiritual capital's three monstrous geniuses are only SOSO. Mou stabilized his body and looked at Nietion with a poisonous gaze. Hearing the other party ridicule him, he simply gnashed his teeth in hatred. But at this time, he was much calmer. After sensing Nietion's strength, his expression immediately stiffened. Third stage of true essence. Nietion was actually already at the third stage of true essence. Although the third stage of true essence was still very far from the divine will realm, in Mou's view, this was a strength that made people unable to help but tremble in fear. One must know that just a year and a half ago, when Mou first met Nietion, the latter was still an ant at the second stage of true essence, and at that time, Mou was already at the ninth stage of true essence. In a year and a half, Mou advanced from the ninth stage of true essence to the first stage of divine wheel realm. Although it was considered to have advanced by a large realm, it was actually only an increase of one stage. But what about Nietion? He directly advanced from the second stage of true essence to the third stage of true essence, skipping the Wanxiang realm and the giant spirit realm. In a year and a half, he advanced by 3 large realms. Was Nietion still a human? He was simply a monster. What was even more unacceptable to Mou was that in the confrontation just now, the strength displayed by Nietion was not under his own. A martial artist at the third layer of true essence was actually able to contend with a martial artist at the first layer of the divine wheel. If Mou hadn't personally witnessed it, he definitely wouldn't have believed it. In fact, Mo Feng had reminded Mou before, telling him that Nietion's strength was somewhat strange. If he was allowed to grow, the consequences would be unimaginable. At that time, Mou didn't care about it. He just thought that Mo Feng was worried too much. But now, it seemed that the strangeness of Nietion's strength was beyond Mo Feng's description. In just a year and a half, he was already able to compete with Mou. If he was given another year and a half, wouldn't he be able to challenge Tang Hao, Mo Zhaojing, and the others? Nietion's strength was too terrifying. It simply made Mou unable to understand. Nietion, not only was Mou shocked, but Mo Rushi was also stunned as she looked at Nietion in disbelief. "Who are you?" Right at this moment, a thunderous roar resounded. Shortly after, a figure appeared in the sky. It was as if a demon god had descended. The wild aura could almost shatter the void, causing people to uncontrollably tremble. What a powerful aura! Nietion looked at the person who came, and his heart trembled. This person's aura was actually even more terrifying than Marshal Dan Hall's Zhang Tingyin. He was already a martial artist at the peak of the divine wheel realm. "Father." Mou looked at the person who came and respectfully called out, "Father?" Nietion was slightly stunned. He didn't expect that the person who came was the head of the Mo family, Mo Zhaojing. Mo Zhaojing and Tang Hao were equally famous. The two of them were known as the two pinnacle of the 3,000 small worlds. No wonder this person's strength was so strong. It was actually Mo Zhaojing. Mo Rushi caused the phoenix cry of the 9 heavens and also broke the seal of the phoenix stone, obtaining the inheritance of the phoenix soul. It wasn't strange that this matter alarmed Mo Zhaojing. Nietion looked at Mo Zhaojing and said his name indifferently. It was neither servile nor overbearing. There was even a hint of provocation. Although Mo Zhaojing was a pinnacle figure of the 3,000 small worlds, Nietion didn't put him in his eyes. Moreover, Mo Rushi was treated unfairly in the Mo family, but this head of the Mo family didn't care about it. It could be assumed that he wasn't a good person. Nietion? Mo Zhaojing frowned. He seemed to have heard this name somewhere. He glanced at Mou and immediately remembered that there was a person who had a life and death battle with Mou in 3 years. That person was called Nietian. Although Mo Zhaojing knew about this matter, he had never taken it seriously and only treated it as a joke. A young man from a remote place was nothing more than an ant. How could he be compared to his genius son? This battle was destined to be a joke. However, when he saw Mou and Nietian collide a moment ago, and then heard Nietian's name, he was actually a little worried. Mo Zhaojing's sharp eyes looked at Nietian and said coldly, "Who are you?" Mo Rushi saw Mo Zhaojing's anger soaring to the sky. Her pretty face was filled with panic, and she subconsciously grabbed Nietian's hand. Nietian tightly held Mo Rushi's hand and took a step forward and said coldly, "Who I am is not important. What's important is Mo Rushi. She is mine, and I will take her away today. He is Tianluo City's Lord Nietian." At this time, the spectators in the air recognized Nietian and exclaimed, "Nietian? Isn't that the guy who killed people in the Alchemist Guild? How is he still alive?" Everyone was puzzled. They didn't expect that Nietian was still alive. When Nietian was taken away by Zhang Tingyin in front of everyone, everyone thought that he was dead for sure. Killing a fourth-order alchemist in front of everyone and being taken away by the martial Dan Temple Master, how could there be any chance of survival? But who would have thought that Nietian was still alive and was now facing the Mo family's patriarch? First the Alchemist Guild, then the Mo family. Who is this kid? Does he want to offend all the major forces in the Sumeru spiritual capital? The crowd's eyes trembled as they looked at Nietian with strange expressions. Mo Zhaojing frowned again. He didn't expect that a youth would dare to talk to him like this, and even want to take away a member of the Mo family in front of him. This kind of behavior was no different from an idiot. "Nietian, do you know who I am?" Mo Zhaojing's expression changed as he spoke. At the same time, a terrifying aura pressed down on Nietian. At this time, all the major forces in the Sumeru spiritual capital were watching. If he didn't teach Nietian a lesson, what dignity would he have left as the Mo family's patriarch? Nietian's eyes flickered as he felt a boundless pressure pressing down on him, making him feel breathless. His face gradually turned red, but his eyes were firm as he held his breath and said faintly, "Even if you are Mo Zhaojing, I will still take him away, courting death." Hearing Nietian call his name, this was a naked provocation. Mo Zhaojing's eyes narrowed as a trace of killing intent flashed through his eyes. An even more terrifying aura pressed down on him. Chapter 558. Mo Zhaojing was thinking very far at this time. Killing Nietian was not only to maintain the dignity of the Mo family, but also to save Mou. With Nietian's potential, if he was given another year and a half, who knew how terrifying his growth would be? Once Nietian grew up, not only would Mou's life be in danger, but the entire Mo family would also be implicated. Therefore, it was better to get rid of a super monster like Nietian as soon as possible. As Mo Zhaojing's pressure increased, Nietian felt a sharp pain in his body, as if he was about to explode. His face twisted. Wah! Just at this moment, another tremendous aura enveloped over. Like a spring breeze and rain, it dissolved the pressure from Nietian's body. Pooh! Nietian suddenly felt his body loosen up, and his heart felt much better. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his complexion improved. "Nietian, are you all right?" Mo Rushi asked Nietian. When she turned around, she saw a few more figures behind her. All of them had restrained their auras and were unfathomable. "I'm fine." Nietian wiped the blood from the corner of his lips and said with a faint smile, "Rushi, trust me. I will definitely take you away today." "Yes." Mo Rushi nodded heavily, unable to conceal the happiness and pride on her face. With such an outstanding man willing to bet his life for her, she was naturally very happy. Guild leader Meng, what is the meaning of this? When Mo Zhaojing saw that the person who saved Nietian was actually the president of the Alchemist Guild, Meng Fanshan, he frowned even more and asked in a cold tone, Meng Fanshen was the only seventh-tier alchemist in the 3,000 small worlds. He was known as the pinnacle of alchemy. Everyone thought that his alchemy Dao attainments were unparalleled, so they overlooked his martial Dao strength. However, Mo Zhaojing knew that aside from Meng Fanshen's unfathomable attainments in the alchemy Dao, his martial strength was also extremely terrifying. At the very least, he wasn't any weaker than the Dan Martial Hall's Zhang Tingyin. Even Mo Zhaojing didn't dare say he could beat Meng Fanshen. Mo Zhaojing's heart sank when he saw Meng Fanshen's sudden attack. The other elders of the Mo family also had ugly expressions on their faces as they tried to guess what Meng Fanshen was trying to do. Mo family head, Mr. Nietian, is now a red-robed elder of the Alchemist Association. How can I stand by idly and watch you injure him? Meng Fanshen's gaze was sharp, but his face was calm. Red-clothed elder? Hearing Meng Fanshen's words, Mo Zhaojing revealed the most shocked expression he had ever shown in his life. He stared at Meng Fanshen for a long time, as if to say, "Are you kidding me?" As soon as Meng Fanshen's words left his mouth, the spectators went into an uproar. Nietian is the red-robed elder of the Apothecary Guild? How is this possible? He just killed the Alchemist Guild's master, Ying Rue. How did he suddenly become a red-clothed elder? Don't tell me that killing a Tier 4 alchemist can make me a red-robed elder? Then I'll go kill one too. Kill your sister. If you dare to touch a Tier 4 alchemist's finger, I guarantee that you will die without any dregs remaining. The Nietian City Lord has become a red-robed elder. This is strange. Of course it's strange. How old is Nietian? He hasn't even grown his hair yet. To become a red-robed elder at such a young age, I must be a donkey. The crowd started guessing, and all sorts of exaggerated expressions expressed the shock in their hearts. A red-robed elder in his teens was too shocking. Everyone, I am the president of the Apothecary Guild, Meng Fanshen, and I am here to announce something. Before the crowd could react, Meng Fanshen's voice sounded again. Heaven Luo City Lord Netan is already a red-robed elder of the Apothecary Guild. The matter of him killing Ying Rue previously was secretly instructed by me. No one else knew about it. Ying Rue used medicinal ingredients prohibited by the guild and secretly refined poisonous pills. This is a serious violation of the guild's rules, and he must not be punished. Therefore, I ordered Elder Nietian to kill him. As for the ringing of the Dan Martial bell, it was purely an accident. His calm voice was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. The crowd burst into an uproar again. Nietian glanced at Meng Fanshen and naturally understood the latter's intentions. Meng Fanshen didn't want the Apothecary Guild's dignity to be damaged, but he couldn't reveal Ying Rue's true identity to the outside world. Therefore, he could only compromise and say that Ying Rue violated the guild's rules and was killed. This way, not only did he protect the Apothecary Guild's reputation, but he also concealed Ying Rue's true identity. If the outside world knew that dozens of Ling Xian Heaven Pavilion's assassins had infiltrated the Apothecary Guild, the guild's face would be thrown into a pigsty. Nietian agreed with Meng Fanshen's method. The Ling Xian Heaven Pavilion was originally a shady organization. It was better to get rid of those assassins in the guild secretly. However, Nietian was very worried that other than Jiao Zhengde and Ying Rue, there might be other assassins hiding in the Alchemy Guild. Since the Ling Xian Heaven Pavilion could plant a red-robed elder in the Apothecary Guild, why couldn't they plant a spy in the Dan Martial Hall? After a moment, Mo Zhaojing calmed down and looked at Meng Fanshen, Nietian, and the others with hatred. He withdrew his killing intent. Since Nietian was already a red-robed elder, of course he couldn't make a move, unless he wanted the Mo clan and the Apothecary Guild to go to war. Mo Rushi, follow me back to the Mo clan. Mo Zhaojing's eyes flashed with a cold light and said coldly. Mo Rushi's charming face stiffened. Although she didn't want to leave Nietian, she still walked forward slowly. Her father and clansmen were still in the Mo clan. If she left with Nietian at this time, Mo Zhaojing would definitely kill them in anger. However, Nietian held her hand tightly and turned his gaze to Mo Zhaojing. He said indifferently, Mo clan head, I've already said it. Mo Rushi is my person. I'm going to take her with me today. Your person? Mo Zhaojing's eyes narrowed slightly. He laughed awkwardly. Her surname is Mo, so she's a member of the Mo clan. Ask her if she is willing to leave with you. If she is willing to leave with you, this clan head won't. No need to ask. Not waiting for Mo Zhaojing to finish, Niet Tian directly interrupted him. His eyes revealed a hint of contempt and said, Mo clan head, state your conditions. We'll make you let Mo Rushi and her family go. Niet Tianqing's family was very deep. Of course he knew what Mo Zhaojing was thinking. He was using the lives of Mo Tai and the others to threaten Mo Rushi to stay. The dignified Mo clan head actually used such a despicable method to force a girl. It was really despicable. Mo Zhaojing was very angry when he was interrupted by Niet Tian. However, looking at the few people behind him, he could only suppress his anger. He glanced at Niet Tian and said, Mo Rushi obtained the Phoenix Soul inheritance. That originally belongs to the Mo clan. If this clan head allows you to take her away, wouldn't it be? Don't talk nonsense. State your conditions. Once again, Niet Tian forcefully interrupted Mo Zhaojing's words and said in a cold tone, You. Mo Zhaojing's chest violently rose and fell a few times. The suppressed anger made his face turn red. Being interrupted by Niet Tian again was equivalent to being slapped in the face in front of everyone. How could he not be angry? Niet Tian, what if his clan head doesn't let her go? Taking a deep breath, Mo Zhaojing's eyes trembled with anger. He gritted his teeth and said, Chapter 559. Mo Zhaojing was furious, but he didn't dare to make a move on Niet Tian. He had to consider the consequences. You won't let him go? Niet Tian stared at Mo Zhaojing with a cold glint in his eyes. If you don't let him go, I'll rob him. Rob? Mo Zhaojing seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. The corner of his mouth twitched. Do you think you could take it away from me? If we can snatch it, we'll snatch it. If we can't, we'll snatch it. Niet Tian strode forward and loudly said, Patriarch Mo, you're well aware of the consequences if you accidentally kill me, given my current identity. Mo Rushi attracted the cry of the phoenix to the 9 heavens and obtained the inheritance of the phoenix's soul, which was what she deserved. If you think that letting her go will damage the Mo family's reputation, then you can state your conditions. What do you think can make up for the phoenix soul? Just tell me, I'll definitely agree to it. Niet Tian spoke in an orderly manner, neither servile nor overbearing. He believed that Mo Zhaojing was a smart person and would not make a stupid choice. Mo Zhaojing calmed down after hearing Niet Tian's suggestion. He originally thought that it was Mo Yu who triggered the phoenix cries to the 9th heaven, but he did not expect it to be Mo Rushi. In his eyes, the phoenix soul belonged to the Mo family, and it could only be inherited by a direct descendant of the Mo family. Although Mo Rushi was a member of the Mo family, she was not a direct descendant. Ever since Mo Rushi had returned to the Mo family, he had never cared about the latter. She was just a dispensable person. However, this insignificant person had actually obtained the inheritance of the phoenix soul. This was something he could not accept. At a certain moment, Mo Zhaojing had a crazy idea. He wanted to remove the phoenix soul from Mo Rushi's body and integrate it into Mo Yu's body. This approach was very dangerous. Mo Rushi would undoubtedly die if she lost the phoenix soul, and the probability of Mo Yu fusing with the phoenix soul was also very low. However, Mo Zhaojing did not care about Mo Rushi's life or death. He only cared about the phoenix soul. What he could think of, Niet Tian could naturally think of as well. Niet Tian saw that the Mo father and son were obsessed with the phoenix soul and was worried that they would go to extremes. That was why he had to take Mo Rushi away. Mo Rushi, who possessed the phoenix soul, would be like a little lamb in the midst of a pack of wolves if she stayed in the Mo family. How can Niet Tian be at ease? Elder Niet Tian, how arrogant of you. Mo Zhaojing's eyes were sharp. He smiled sinisterly and said, If I wanted a heaven-ranked martial technique or a rank 9 emperor weapon, would you be able to take them out? Mo Zhaojing could see Nie Tian's determination, but he couldn't just let him take Mo Rushi away, so he had to demand an exorbitant price. Heaven-ranked martial technique? A Tier 9 Emperor weapon? Before Nie Tian could speak, Elder Yi couldn't help but sneer. Mo Zhaojing, are you crazy? These two things, not to mention Nie Tian, even your Mo family might not be able to take them out. Heaven-ranked martial technique was still fine. The four great clans all had a low-ranked martial technique, but a Tier 9 Emperor weapon, it was probably impossible to find one in the entire 3,000 small worlds. Mo Zhaojing was clearly acting shamelessly by offering such a condition. Yi Linyan? Mo Zhaojing couldn't help but be stunned when he saw the face that suddenly appeared. He then smiled and said, "The world-defying Wildblade from back, then has also become a member of the Alchemist Guild?" He sensed Elder Ye's strength, and the corner of his mouth raised into an undisguised sneer. Elder Yi smiled plainly and said, "I am only Mr. Nie's friend, not a member of the Alchemist Guild. Mo family head, as long as I take out a heaven-ranked martial technique and a Tier 9 Emperor weapon from now on, Mo Rushi and her clansmen will no longer have anything to do with the Mo family, right?" Nie Tian said at this moment with an inexplicable smile in his eyes. A heaven-ranked martial technique and a Tier 9 Emperor weapon, to other people, was simply impossible, but to Nie Tian, it was just a matter of a sentence, because he had both of these things in his hands. Mo Zhaojing saw Nie Tian's indifferent expression and couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He then sneered and said, "Elder Nie Tian, since you said so, then this family head's condition is a heaven-ranked martial technique and a Tier 9 Emperor weapon. As long as you can take them out, you can take Mo Rushi away." Mo family head, are you joking? Hearing Mo Zhaojing's condition, everyone's heart trembled. Meng Fanshin and the rest couldn't help but tremble. Mo Zhaojing was too shameless. This was simply an impossible condition. Even if Nie Tian was a red-robed elder of the Alchemist Guild, it was impossible for him to have a heaven-ranked martial technique and a Tier 9 Emperor weapon. All right, it's a deal. Just when everyone was shocked by Mo Zhaojing's shamelessness, Nie Tian smiled indifferently and agreed in a clear voice. It's a deal? Mo Zhaojing's cold smile suddenly froze. He looked at Nie Tian with a strange gaze, seriously suspecting that the latter's head was kicked by a donkey. Nie Tian's casual words echoed in everyone's ears like a sudden clap of thunder. Everyone was so shocked that they felt like they were being fried on the outside and tender on the inside. Only one person's reaction was indifferent, and there was a smile on his face. That was Gu Yi. He had personally seen Nie Tian throw two heaven-ranked martial techniques to Ding Yifan, as if he was throwing cabbage. Therefore, it wasn't strange that Nie Tian could take out a Tier 9 Emperor weapon. "Commander Zhao," not caring about everyone's reaction, Nie Tian suddenly shouted. But there was no response for a long time after he shouted. Dan Wu Hall's 7th commander, Zhao Kuo. Nie Tian turned back to look at Zhao Kuo, who was in a daze, and shouted again. "Here!" Zhao Kuo reacted at this moment. His figure moved and went to Nie Tian's side. Right now, he felt like he was dreaming. Nie Tian had inexplicably turned from a center of the Alchemist Guild to a red-robed elder. Just now, he even agreed to Mo Zhaojing's request. All these things made everyone feel dizzy. "Commander Zhao, can I trouble you to make a trip to the Alchemist Guild's first branch and find my disciple, Zhang Yifeng? Then, bring a person called Jean de Bao here," Nie Tian said to Zhao Kuo. Zhang Yifeng. When the surrounding people heard Nie Tian's words, they were all stunned. This name had recently gained some fame in Sumi spiritual capital. He was an alchemist prodigy that had recently risen. Who would have thought that such a figure was actually Nie Tian's disciple? Yes, Zhao Kuo nodded respectfully and said, "This subordinate will go now." Nie Tian was already a red-robed elder now. There was nothing wrong with Zhao Kuo calling himself a subordinate. Mo Zhaojing's sharp eyes stared at Nie Tian. He didn't know what the latter was up to. Meng Fanshun, Elder Yi, and the others also looked at Nie Tian suspiciously. They didn't believe that he could take out a Tier 9 Emperor weapon. Zhao Kuo left quickly and returned quickly. In just a few minutes, he brought Zhang Yifeng and Jean de Bao back. Teacher, Zhang Yifeng came to Nie Tian's side and bowed. He was extremely respectful. Meng Fanshan's eyes tensed up. He knew Zhang Yifeng. He was a 21-year-old fourth-grade alchemist with amazing talent in alchemy. He even had the thought of taking Zhang Yifeng as his disciple. He didn't expect that Zhang Yifeng was actually Nie Tian's disciple. Chapter 560. Nie Tian's body trembled slightly as he released his sword intent to help Jean de Bao stabilize his body. Elder Nie Tian, what is the meaning of this? Mo Zhaojing couldn't help but smile in disdain when he saw that Nie Tian had gone through so much trouble to bring a fatty over. Jean de Bao's appearance wasn't impressive at all. No matter how he looked at him, he looked like a piece of trash. Could it be that this kind of person could take out a heaven-ranked martial technique and a rank 9 emperor weapon? What is this fatty doing? Is he a clown hired by a monkey? The others saw Jean de Bao's clumsy appearance and said one after another. Their eyes were full of mockery. Jean de Bao didn't care about what the others thought of him. He only looked at Nie Tian and gradually calmed down. Nie Tian ignored Mo Zhaojing, and a scroll suddenly appeared in his hand. Immediately, a surge of pure martial intent was released. Everyone present felt this surge of martial intent, causing their bodies to tremble and their expressions to change dramatically. Heaven-ranked martial technique. Meng Fanshan's divine sense was extremely strong. He immediately sensed that the scroll in Nie Tian's hand was a heaven-ranked martial technique. It's definitely a heaven-ranked martial technique. The other red-clothed elders' expressions changed, and their eyes immediately became hot. Oh my God, he really took out a heaven-ranked martial technique. Everyone's eyes trembled as they exclaimed. It really is a heaven-ranked martial technique. Mo Zhaojing's divine sense entered the scroll, and his pupils suddenly dilated. If his eyes were any bigger, his eyeballs would have popped out. He took a few deep breaths, and his voice began to tremble. Nie Tian, Elder Nie Tian, the scroll in your hand is a heaven-ranked middle-grade martial technique. Who would have thought that Nie Tian would casually take out a heaven-ranked middle-grade martial technique? This made Mo Zhaojing unable to remain calm. It was too exciting. So what if it is? Nie Tian asked back. He then did something that no one expected. He threw the martial technique to Zhao Kuo and said indifferently, Commander Zhao, it was hard for you to bring him here. This martial technique is my reward for your help. Well, the crowd was stunned. Many people opened their mouths wide, but couldn't make a sound. Elder Nie Tian, Zhao Kuo stared at the martial art manual in her hand. She felt as if a million rabbits were running around in her heart, and her heart was about to explode. Xiao Chun had only gone to bring Zhang Yifeng and Jean de Bao over, and Nie Tian had given him a heaven-ranked martial art. This move was simply too shocking. The other people in the Dan Martial Hall, including Zhang Tingyin, were all staring blankly. Their hearts were practically filled with 10,000 hatred. Nie Tian, what are you doing? Mo Zhaojing was no longer calm. His eyes were filled with coldness. Everyone thought that the martial arts manual in Nie Tian's hand was for Mo Zhaojing, but they didn't expect that he would directly give it to Zhao Kuo. This was undoubtedly a slap to the Mo family's face. Mo family head, what I do has nothing to do with you. Nie Tian smiled faintly. Then, another scroll appeared in his hand. He tossed it to Mo Zhaojing and said in a cold voice, Isn't it just a heaven-ranked martial technique? I have plenty of them. Everyone present felt this surging martial intent once again and immediately understood that Nie Tian had taken out another heaven-ranked martial technique. Everyone's face stiffened, and their eyes became dull. Who exactly was Nie Tian? Where did he get so many heaven-ranked martial techniques from? Mo Zhaojing looked at the martial technique in his hand and confirmed that it was undoubtedly a heaven-ranked martial technique. A hint of passion flashed in his eyes, but it immediately turned into anger. Nie Tian first gave Zhao Kuo a heaven-ranked martial technique, and then he gave Mo Zhaojing another one. This was simply like giving cabbages to Mo Zhaojing. This made Mo Zhaojing feel extremely unbalanced. He had a feeling that he was being played like a dog. Nietian had given the Mo family a resounding slap in the face in front of everyone. However, Mo Zhaojing could only suffer in silence. What about a Tier 9 Emperor artifact? Mo Zhaojing clenched his teeth and asked. Even if Nietian had a heaven-ranked martial technique, it didn't mean that he had a Tier 9 Emperor artifact. There were no Tier 9 blacksmiths in the 3,000 small worlds, so where would he get a Tier 9 Emperor artifact? Nietian looked at Jean de Bayo and said directly, "De Bayo, take out the Emperor artifact in your hand." Nietian obtained 5 Tier 9 Emperor artifacts from the Bloody Massacre ancient tomb. The Star Soul tablet was in his body, the Blue Phoenix Vine was in Rui Qinyu's hands, and the Lee Dragon Cauldron, Purple Wind Jade Sword, and Greedy Wolf Snake Flame Spear were in Jean de Bayo's hands. Nietian gave the 3 Tier 9 Emperor artifacts to Jean de Bayo because he wanted him to use the 3,000 demonic seals to suppress the 3 Emperor artifacts to the level of a Tier 7 Spirit artifact. Only Heavenly Evolution Realm and above martial artists dared to use Tier 9 Emperor artifacts. Martial artists below the Heavenly Evolution Realm would not be able to withstand the power of the Emperor artifact. All right, Jean de Bayo agreed and took out all 3 Emperor artifacts. He looked at Nietian helplessly and said, "Boss, I only have 3 Emperor artifacts now. I've given the rest to the servants." The Lee Dragon Cauldron, Purple Wind Jade Sword, and Greedy Wolf Snake Flame Spear shone brightly as soon as the 3 Emperor artifacts appeared. 7-colored divine light flowed in the void, and an ancient but powerful aura spread out for thousands of meters. This scene caused everyone to be dumbfounded, and their hearts beat wildly. The light released by the 3 Emperor weapons caused people's hearts to palpitate because this light was the legendary Emperor Light. Emperor Light. It's really Emperor Light. Meng Fanchen was the first to react. He could no longer keep his cool and shouted. Emperor Light was a divine light that only a Tier 9 Spirit artifact could release. No wonder Meng Fanchen was so excited. Isn't it just a Tier 9 Emperor artifact? Do you have to be so excited? It must have been hard for you to live for so long. You've really never seen the world. Jean de Bayo didn't know Meng Fanchen's identity and sneered. He then looked at Nietian and said, "Boss, you asked me to take out these spirit artifacts. Are you going to reward them to a servant?" One had to admit that Jean de Bayo was very smart. He was even better than Nietian when it came to acting cool. Nietian glanced at Mo Zhaojing. Jean de Bayo immediately understood and raised his brows. He said with a smirk, "Hey you, which one do you want? Say it yourself." Jean de Bayo was very arrogant at this time. He simply treated Mo Zhaojing as a servant and ordered him around. Mo Zhaojing looked at Jean de Bayo and was speechless for a few seconds. How could he have imagined that such an unprepossessing fatty would actually be able to casually take out 3 Tier 9 Emperor artifacts? I want that Snake Flame Spear." Mo Zhaojing didn't even notice Jean de Bayo's tone and excitedly pointed at the Greedy Wolf Snake Flame Spear. Jean de Bayo's fat face trembled a bit. He then laughed and said, "Greedy Wolf Snake Flame Spear, you're very good at choosing. Unfortunately, it won't do. This Snake Flame Spear belongs to me. You can choose something else." Mo Zhaojing frowned and suppressed his anger. He pointed at the Violet Wind Blue Sword and said, "Then I want this sword." The Greedy Wolf Snake Flame Spear wasn't good, but the Violet Wind Blue Sword was also not bad. Jean de Bayo glanced at him and smiled. "The Violet Wind Blue Sword is also not bad, but it still won't do. This sword belongs to Ninth Sister. I can't give it to you. You should take the Leaving Dragon Cauldron." With that, Jean de Bayo put away the Greedy Wolf Snake Flame Spear and the Violet Wind Blue Sword, leaving only the Leaving Dragon Cauldron carved with dragon patterns. "Little fatty, you're messing with me." At this time, Mo Zhaojing finally realized that Jean de Bayo was completely messing with him. "Take it or leave it. It would be a mistake to give you the Leaving Dragon Cauldron." Jean de Bayo did not know who Mo Zhaojing was. He rolled his eyes and said in a bad mood. Chapter 561. Mo Zhaojing was teased by Jean de Bayo and was furious. He suddenly attacked. The terrifying strength of a warrior at the peak of the spirit wheel stage exploded. Endless energy fell and formed a sharp claw in the air. So strong, everyone felt a huge pressure pressing down on them, and the air turned into sharp wind blades. Mo Zhaojing didn't dare to kill Tian, but he definitely dared to kill Jean de Bao. Jean de Bao was shrouded by an invisible force, and his face turned pale. In front of a warrior at the spirit wheel stage, he couldn't resist at all. Stop! At this moment, a shout was heard, and a white light appeared, protecting Jean de Bao in the center. Bang! With a loud bang, Mo Zhaojing's attack landed, causing the air to tremble. The white light barrier around Jean de Bao's body cracked and crumbled. Waves of qi spread out, and everyone felt their bodies tremble. Many people swayed and almost fell down. A head-on collision between a warrior at the peak of the spirit wheel stage, even if it was just the aftershock, was not something an ordinary warrior could withstand. Meng Fanchen, you are indeed powerful. Nie Tian protected Mo Rushi and looked at Meng Fanchen. He was the one who saved Jean de Bao. Meng Fanchen was able to block Mo Zhaojing's attack and was not at a disadvantage. It was enough to show that his strength was similar to Mo Zhaojing's. Yuan Tian Gangqi. Mo Zhaojing looked at Meng Fanchen in surprise after his attack was blocked. He then smiled and said, President Meng, I didn't expect your Yuan Tian tactic to have reached such a level. You can actually condense Yuan Tian Gangqi. I admire you. Mo Zhaojing's admiration showed his unwillingness and sarcasm at the same time. Mo family head, you're one of the strongest cultivators in the 3,000 small worlds. It doesn't seem appropriate for you to kill a young man in front of so many people. Meng Fanchen replied indifferently. There was a hint of jealousy in his tone. Everyone looked at Mo Zhaojing with a strange expression. With his status and strength, it was indeed inappropriate for him to attack Jean de Bao. Mo Zhaojing was also confused by Jean de Bao's anger. Feeling everyone's burning gazes, he couldn't help but blush. Coldly, he said, This brat teased me. I was angry and impulsively attacked. Under the protection of Yuan Tian Gangqi, Jean de Bao was not injured, but he was scared half to death. His whole body was drenched in cold sweat, and his clothes were soaked. What an impulsive attack! Nie Tianling smiled and said, Mo clan head, you only want a 9th-tier Emperor artifact. You didn't say what kind of 9th-tier Emperor artifact it is. Even if I give you the Leaving Dragon Cauldron, it can be considered as me fulfilling my conditions. Mo Zhaojing's expression was cold and tense. If Nie Tian really gave him the Leaving Dragon Cauldron, he really couldn't say anything. However, the Leaving Dragon Cauldron was useless to Mo Zhaojing or the Mo family. The Mo clan did not have any high-level alchemists, nor did they have any blacksmiths. In the Mo clan, the Leaving Dragon Cauldron could only be viewed as a painting. Mo family head, do you really want the greedy wolf snake flame spear? Nie Tian nodded at Jean de Bao, who took out the greedy wolf snake flame spear again. You are really willing to give it to me? Mo Zhaojing saw the greedy wolf snake flame spear and asked excitedly with an unconcealable passion in his eyes. Mo family head, if you want the greedy wolf snake flame spear, then apologize to my friend, Nie Tian said coldly. Apologize? Mo Zhaojing was startled and suspected that he had heard wrongly. He was the Mo family head of one of the 4 major families. How could he casually apologize to someone? Without hesitation, he blurted out, Impossible. Mo Zhaojing was also a big shot. If he apologized to Jean de Bao in front of so many people, how could he and the Mo clan have any face left? All right, the Leaving Dragon Cauldron is yours. Nie Tian's face was determined. With a wave of his hand, he threw the Leaving Dragon Cauldron over. Mo Zhaojing looked at the dragon-marking pill cauldron in front of him, and his face stiffened in pain. He was thinking and weighing the pros and cons. Mo family head, goodbye. Nie Tian didn't give Mo Zhaojing any time to think. He turned around and prepared to leave with Mo Rushi. Wait! Just as Nie Tian turned around, Mo Zhaojing immediately became anxious and blurted out, I apologize. As soon as the words left his mouth, Everyone was shocked and looked at Mo Zhaojing in astonishment. The temptation of a rank 9 Emperor weapon was too great. Even Mo Zhaojing was forced to bow his head. The leaving dragon cauldron was useless to him. If he sold it, it would be a pity to throw it away. What Mo Zhaojing wanted the most was the greedy wolf snake flame spear. He could smell the fire attribute in it, which was the same as his Yuan's spirit. As long as he could get it, his battle power would increase by a level. In the end, he couldn't resist the temptation of a rank 9 Emperor weapon and chose to apologize. All right, apologize. Nie Tian's mouth twitched. He had already expected this result. Under countless astonished gazes, Mo Zhaojing took 2 steps towards Jean de Bao. His body trembled, and he finally bowed slightly. He gritted his teeth and said, "Young master, I made a mistake and almost hurt you. Please forgive me." Jean de Bao glanced at Mo Zhaojing and chuckled. "Your voice was too soft. I couldn't hear you." Mo Zhaojing's eyes flickered and a cold intent was released, but it quickly disappeared. Mo clan leader, since you have already lowered your head, why don't you lower your head more sincerely? Nie Tian's voice was full of mockery. Mo Zhaojing's heart felt like it was blocked by a ball of cotton. He couldn't swallow it or spit it out. But in front of everyone, he had already promised to admit his mistake. Going back on his words now would make him look even more petty. Helplessly, Mo Zhaojing let out a long breath and said loudly, "I made a mistake. Please forgive me." Jean de Bao was startled. Then he smiled and said, all right. Seeing that you are so sincere, I will forgive you. But don't do it again. If there is a next time, be careful of your head." Everyone was stunned. They widened their eyes and stared at Jean de Bao, unable to react for a long time. Jean de Bao's tone was like he was talking to a servant. It was a bit too arrogant. A cold intent flashed in Mo Zhaojing's eyes. He forcefully suppressed his anger and ignored Jean de Bao. "For you." Nie Tian did not say much and directly threw the greedy wolf snake flame spear to Mo Zhaojing. At this moment, Mo Zhaojing was definitely on the verge of exploding. If he was provoked again, he might really go crazy. Mo Zhaojing caught the snake spear, and his eyes finally showed a hint of joy. Although the Mo clan had lost face today, it was not a loss to be able to obtain a heaven-ranked martial technique and a rank 9 Emperor weapon. President Meng, goodbye. After obtaining the greedy wolf snake flame spear, Mo Zhaojing was not willing to stay any longer. He said goodbye to Meng Fanshun and left. Mo Yu glared at Nie Tian hatefully. If looks could kill, Nie Tian would have already been torn to pieces by him. At this moment, Mo Yu's hatred for Nie Tian had reached an unbearable limit. However, he did not dare to act rashly. This kind of feeling made him go crazy. Nie Tian, just you wait and see. After leaving this sentence, Mo Yu left angrily. The Mo clan followed him and left. Nie Tian looked at the backs of Mo Yu and the others. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly. He opened his arms and hugged Mo Rushi tightly. Chapter 562. With the departure of the Mo family, the big show came to an end. But anyone could see that the grievances between Nie Tian and the Mo family had already been formed, and there was bound to be a big storm coming. Nie Tian was already a red-robed elder, so Meng Fanshun and Gui discussed and decided to let him live with Gu Yi for the time being before choosing a mansion for Nie Tian. Since Nie Tian was already a red-robed elder, Meng Fanshun and Gui discussed and decided to let him live with Gu Yi for the time being before choosing a mansion for Nie Tian. This time, Nie Tian's limelight was a little too big. First he killed Ing Rue, then he became a red-robed elder. Then he went against the Mo family and even forced Mo Zhaojing to admit his mistakes. Each of these events was enough to shake the entire Shumi spirit capital. The tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. Nie Tian certainly understood this, so he planned to keep a low profile for the next period of time. Soon, Nie Tian and the others arrived at Gu Yi's mansion. Qiu Shan and the others were already waiting. Big brother Nie Tian. Seeing Nie Tian again, Nie Yuro was very happy and ran over. But when she saw Nie Tian and Mo Rushi holding hands, she pouted and shouted at Mo Rushi, "Who are you? You're not allowed to hold big brother Nye Tian's hand. Although Nyuro and Mo Rushi had both been in Mo Yang City before, the two had never met, and Mo Rushi's appearance had changed a little, so of course Nyuro didn't recognize her. Ninth sister, she's your future sister-in-law. Nye Tian laughed and said shamelessly. Mo Rushi's pretty face blushed as she pulled away Nye Tian's hand and stepped forward. You're Nyuro, right? Nyuro's big eyes flashed as she asked, How did you know? Mo Rushi bent down and whispered something in Nyuro's ear, causing the latter to giggle. Nye Tian didn't bother with them and allowed them to return to their rooms while he, Gu Yi, Yang Kai, Elder Yi, and the others went to the meeting hall. Aside from Nye Tian and the others, Yang Kai and Elder Yi also arrived at the Gu residence. Brother Nye, you really don't give up until you die. You've just arrived at Sumi Spirit Capital, and you've already caused such a huge commotion. I reckon that everyone in Sumi Spirit Capital knows you now. Gui took a sip of tea and said half-jokingly, I didn't want to make things so big. Nye Tian smiled bitterly. He originally wanted to keep a low profile, but unfortunately, he was the only glowing firefly in the dark night. He couldn't keep a low profile even if he wanted to. Mr. Nye, Mo Zhaojing is very strong, but he is narrow-minded. You made the Mo family lose face in front of everyone, so he definitely won't let this go. You have to be careful from now on. Elder Yi reminded Nye Tian. He had dealt with Mo Zhaojing when he was young and knew that the latter was a vengeful person. This time, Nye Tian publicly humiliated him, so he definitely wouldn't let Nye Tian off. I heard that the Mo family's patriarch is the most ruthless person among the 4 patriarchs of the 4 worlds. Elder Nye has offended him, so you must be careful in the future. Yang Kai also said, and Nye Tian nodded. Although he had only met Mo Zhaojing once, he could tell from his eyes and actions that this person was not someone easy to get along with. Right. Nye Tian suddenly thought of something. He handed a space bag to Yang Kai and said, Old Yang, this is the 6 Yang extremities. You only need to fuse and refine the herbs into 6 Yang spirit liquid. Then, let Yang Zixiao take a medicinal bath. Drip 3 drops at a time, 3 times a day. After 3 months, the 100 void qi in his body will be suppressed. Yang Kai took the space bag gratefully. He had some doubts about Nye Tian before, but now he trusted him very much. At the same time, in the Mo family's conference hall, Mo Zhaojing sat on the main seat with a gloomy face. He didn't say a word, but an invisible pressure was released. Everyone in the hall felt a heavy pressure. Father, please let the Mo family's dark guards kill Nye Tian. Mo was the first to lose his cool. His eyes were bloodshot as he gritted his teeth and roared. Mo, don't be impulsive. The Mo family's first elder, Mo Xing, said in a deep voice, Nye Tian's current identity is no small matter. He is the Alchemist Guild's red-clothed elder. Killing him now is tantamount to drawing fire to yourself. This matter needs to be considered at length. What do you need to consider at length? Mo was about to go crazy. He roared, When has our Mo family suffered this kind of sullenness? Nye Tian must pay the price. Enough! Mo Zhaojing suddenly roared. A trace of coldness flashed through his eyes as he said, We can't kill Nye Tian now. He just had a conflict with the Mo family. If we kill him now, the Mo family will be the prime suspect. Father, then what do you think we should do? Mo saw Mo Zhaojing's gloomy face and the sneer on his lips. It was obvious that he had a better way to take revenge. Mo Zhaojing's eyes flashed coldly as he said, Although I can't kill Nye Tian, killing a few traitors who betray the Mo family is still a piece of cake. Master, you mean? Mo Xing suddenly thought of something, and his face palpitated. Kill Mo Tai. Mo Zhaojing squeezed out 3 words from his teeth as a cold smile flashed on his face. He didn't dare to kill Nye Tian, but he wanted to kill Mo Rushi's father, Mo Tai, to take revenge on Nye Tian. Mo Zhaojing had promised Nye Tian that he would let Mo Rushi and her clansmen go. However, he went back on his words. From this, it could be seen that this Mo family's master was a villain who did not keep his word. All right, I will ask Mo Phone to do this. Mo Xing agreed and left directly. After a while, Mo Phone came to Mo Xing. Master's order, kill Mo Tai. Mo Xing said directly without any nonsense. Mo Phone was stunned for a second. Then he smiled and nodded heavily. Kill Mo Tai. You must do it cleanly. Don't let anyone know that it was the Mo family's doing. Mo Xing said, Yes. Don't worry, great elder. I will do it well. Mo Feng agreed and left immediately. His hatred for Nie Tian was not any weaker than Mo Yu's. If he could kill Mo Tai, it would relieve the hatred in his heart. In a clean and tidy room, everything was brand new. A beautiful figure was sitting on the bed, staring at the door. No one knew what she was thinking. Creak. At this time, the door was pushed open. Nie Tian walked in. Seeing Mo Rushi's dazed expression, he smiled faintly and said, Mo Rushi, are you thinking of me? Mo Rushi shook her head slightly. She looked at Nie Tian and said seriously, Nie Tian, thank you. Nie Tian walked over and sat next to Mo Rushi. He stretched out his arm and put it on her shoulder. He said solemnly, Mo Rushi, you are not allowed to say thank you to me in the future. Mo Rushi's breathtakingly beautiful eyes blinked and her body trembled. She felt powerless and couldn't help but lean against his broad chest. Nie Tian hugged her even tighter. He slowly lowered his head and got closer to the beautiful face in his arms. Mo Rushi suddenly sensed something, and her pretty face flushed red. Her heart was pounding, but she finally mustered up the courage to raise her head. Chapter 563. In the room, after an unknown amount of time, the two figures finally separated. Nie Tian moved his body slightly and saw Mo Rushi's bashful face. A naughty smile appeared on his face, but it was very bright and very sweet. Mo Rushi saw Nie Tian's naughty smile, and the bashfulness on her face deepened. She looked a little flustered and couldn't help but lower her head, not daring to look at his eyes. She subconsciously moved slightly, distancing herself from Nie Tian. Her bashful appearance was extremely cute. Nie Tian was also a little nervous. In fact, this was his first kiss. Although he was the #1 war god in the heaven realm in his previous life, he only dated Luo Zian, and the latter betrayed him and even killed him. He couldn't bear to look back on his previous life, but in this life, Nie Tian must live a wonderful life. Mo Rushi, you rest? I'm leaving. Nie Tian stood up and gently stroked Mo Rushi's fiery red hair. He said this and turned to leave. Mo Rushi lowered her head and answered. Only after Nie Tian had left for a long time did she raise her head again. She propped her chin up with her hands, and her extremely beautiful face carried a touch of soul-stirring shyness. Her clear eyes flickered, as if she was thinking of something. In the end, her moving lips slightly trembled, and she gently smiled. It was a peerless beauty. Bang! At this time, the room's door was suddenly opened, and Nie Tian barged in again. Nie Tian, why are you back? Mo Rushi nervously stopped smiling, as if she was afraid of being seen by Nie Tian. Nie Tian had a nervous look on his face as he asked, Where is Lord Mo Tai? Mo Rushi was stunned for a moment, and replied, Father was sent to a Ning city to take care of the family's affairs. What's wrong? Oh no. Nie Tian's face darkened, and he suddenly had an ominous premonition. When he was talking to Gu, Yi, and the others, he didn't think much about it. Just now, when he suddenly thought of Mo Rushi's father, he had some guesses in his heart. With Mo Zhaojing's vengeful personality, he would definitely not give up. If he couldn't do anything to Nie Tian, he would target someone else. Therefore, Mo Tai might be in danger. Although Mo Zhaojing had promised to let Mo Rushi and her family go, it was highly likely that he would go back on his word. Killing Mo Tai was a very easy thing to do. At that time, the Mo clan could just push the blame to someone else. Thinking of this, Nie Tian's face immediately became gloomy. Nie Tian, is the patriarch going to kill my father? Mo Rushi immediately walked over and asked in panic when she saw Nie Tian's expression. Don't worry, I won't let them succeed. Nie Tian solemnly nodded. A resolute look flickered in his eyes as he said, "Let's go to Tranquil City." Tranquil City was an ancient city at the border of the Nanshan region. It had a long history and was said to have existed since 10,000 years ago. This ancient city was majestic and vast. Standing in the boundless desert, it was like a lonely giant that was isolated from the rest of the world. 3 days later, outside of Tranquil City, in the middle of the flying yellow sand, 3 figures appeared. They were Nietian, Emorushi, and Qiushan. Nietian originally wanted to bring Elder Yi along, but after thinking about it again and again, he only brought Qiushan. Elder Yi's strength was too strong. If he came with them, it would be too big of a target. This time, they only came to Tranquil City to save Emotai. The smaller the target, the better. Nietian didn't want Emorushi to come along, but the latter insisted. So, Nietian had no choice but to let her come along. Mr. Nya, although Tranquil City is called Tranquil City, it is not peaceful inside. This is the most ancient city at the border of the Nanshan region. Rumor has it that if we cross the desolate ancient desert, we can reach the territory of the demon race. Qiushan looked at the distant Tranquil City and said to Nietian. Nietian looked at the vast ancient city standing in the middle of the boundless desert and couldn't help but shake his head. Emotai was sent to this desolate place. It was simply like an exile. It was much more miserable than when he was in Moyang City. When Emotai told the Mo family about Rushi's awakening of a rank 9 origin spirit, he thought that he could return to the Mo family. He didn't expect that he would be exiled to Tranquil City. This kind of difference in treatment really made people sigh. "Let's enter the city." Nietian nodded. His figure flashed, and he ran towards the city gate. The Sumera Grand Meeting would start in 20 days. Nietian had to hurry back to Sumi's spiritual capital before the Grand Meeting started. Stepping into Tranquil City, Nietian and the others went straight to a restaurant. They were going to rest for a while and inquire about Emotai's news. Rushi only knew that Emotai was in Tranquil City, but she didn't know where he was or what he was doing. Entering the restaurant, Nietian found that every place was full. Only the most central seat was empty. He didn't think too much and directly sat down. At this moment, a tyrannical figure suddenly appeared. A gloomy and cold, evil chi spread out. What a cold, evil chi! Everyone's heart trembled. They looked at the figure and saw that it was a warrior in his prime. He was dressed in brocade clothes. The man looked to be in his 30s or 40s. He had a fierce face, and a bloody evil chi surged from his body. It was as if he had just walked out of a bloody battlefield. 9th stage true element realm. Nietian looked at the man and couldn't help but be surprised. He didn't expect this man to be so strong. The arrival of this man made the entire restaurant fall into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. There was a deep fear in their eyes. "It's Lord Ning. Make way." At this time, a waiter of the restaurant shouted and ran to the man's side. "Brother, who is this man? He's so domineering." Nietian smiled faintly and asked the person next to him. The man looked back at Nietian and said unhappily, "You don't even know who Lord Ning is? You really haven't seen the world. Let me tell you, Lord Ning is the #1 true disciple of Master Dongfang Yu of the Transformation God sect, the #1 sect in the Southern Mountain region. You don't even know who he is, and you still dare to come to Peaceful City?" Nietian smiled faintly and didn't know what to say. Before coming to Peaceful City, he had asked around and found out that the biggest sect in the vicinity was the Transformation God sect. The Transformation God sect was the top sect in the Southern Mountain region. Only the Qinquan Palace could be compared to it. More importantly, the Transformation God sect's Master Dongfang Yu had a blood feud with Qiushan. Qiushan's Yuan Meridian was destroyed by Dongfang Yu. So far, Qiushan didn't know why Dongfang Yu did this. Before coming here, Nietian was worried that he would run into someone from the Transformation God sect. Who would have thought that he would run into Dongfang Yu's #1 true disciple as soon as he arrived? Qiushan. Nietian noticed that Qiushan was a little agitated, so he reminded him. Qiushan nodded solemnly and restrained his aura. "It's over." At this time, The man next to Nyetian suddenly let out a strange cry. He was so scared that he trembled and directly sat on the ground. What's going on? Nyetian looked at the man with a puzzled expression. They were just talking nicely a moment ago. Why was he so scared all of a sudden? This is Lord Ning's seat. The man jumped to his feet and retreated in fear. Chapter 564. Ning Wudao walked over step by step. With every step he took, the bloody aura in the air became thicker. This person was like a bloody butcher's knife. Just by standing there, people could smell the pungent smell of blood. Get lost. Ning Wudao strode over and spat out a word without even looking at Nyetian. He was extremely arrogant. Bang! Qiushan slammed the table and stood up. His whole body was filled with anger. Let's go to another place. Nyetian immediately stood up and put a hand on Qiushan. He shook his head slightly, signaling the latter not to be impulsive. This was in Ning City. It was very close to the God Transformation sect. If they fought here, Nyetian and the others would not be able to get any benefits. Moreover, Nyetian's purpose this time was to save people. It was not appropriate to expose his identity. At least you know what's good for you. Ning Wudao smiled contemptuously. His eyes were filled with extreme contempt. Nyetian and the others stood up. Just as they were about to leave, Ning Wudao stretched out his arm and blocked their way. He sized up Mo Rushi and said with a smile, I told you two to get lost. This woman has to stay with me. What a beautiful woman. Hearing Ning Wudao's words, everyone could not help but look at Mo Rushi. Only then did they notice that the latter was a peerless beauty. When Mo Rushi entered the restaurant just now, she kept her head down and did not attract the attention of the crowd. At this moment, the crowd was paying attention to her. Countless pairs of eyes could not move away. Mo Rushi was simply too beautiful, especially with her scarlet hair, which made her look even more enchanting. Nyetian's expression suddenly froze. His whole body released a cold, murderous intent. Mo Rushi was Nyetian's reverse scale. Anyone who touched it would die. Nyetian's lips curled into a cold smile. He felt helpless. He did not want to cause unnecessary trouble, but trouble came to him. He had no other choice. There was only one thing he could do: kill. A small shrimp wants to fight a dragon? Ning Wudao sneered. He did not put Nyetian in his eyes at all. He was the first true disciple of the Transformation God Sect's sect master, Dongfangyu. His strength had already reached the 9th stage of true element. In an entire peaceful city, no one dared to disobey him. They're about to make their move. The crowd's hearts trembled, and they subconsciously retreated. Io, what are the two of you doing? Could it be that you intend to destroy my restaurant? Right at this moment, an enchanting voice resounded, and then an enchanting figure appeared. This was a charming and seductive woman wearing a pink dress. Her figure was tall and slender, and her curves were curvaceous. Her chest was full to the point of exploding, and her red lips were scorching hot. She was exceptionally charming. Aoki Lily. When Nyetian heard this voice, it was very familiar. He turned around and saw that it was indeed someone he knew. When Aoki Lily saw Nyetian, she was slightly taken aback. She was clearly very surprised. However, she concealed her surprise very well. She giggled and said in a sweet voice, Sir Ning, I saw everything that happened just now. It's just a misunderstanding. This young master is new here, and he doesn't know that it's Sir Ning's seat. I'm here to apologize to Sir Ning. I hope that Sir Ning can give me face and resolve this small matter. Miss Lily. Ning Wudao stared at Aoki Lily obscenely, and his saliva almost flowed out. However, he was not stupid. Sensing the change in Aoki Lily's expression, he could not help but glance at Nyetian and said in his heart, Who is this guy? Even the eldest daughter of the Diyuan Chamber of Commerce is pleading for him. Although Yuani Restaurant was opened by the Diyuan Chamber of Commerce, Aoki Lily obviously would not plead for an ordinary customer. Ning Wudao grinned and said, Miss Lily, since you've spoken, I can't turn you down. How about this? As long as this guy kneels down and kowtows to me 3 times to admit his mistake, then destroys his own primordial meridians and asks the red-haired beauty beside him to accompany me for 10 days, I'll spare his life. What do you think? As soon as he finished speaking, someone behind him stood up and flattered. Serene is too kind and benevolent. This guy is really lucky. Yes, yes. Serene is really a magnanimous person. The others echoed. Aokiki Lily's beautiful eyes turned cold, and an unconcealable anger appeared on her pretty face. Ning Wudao's words were completely toying with her. Puffed. However, at this moment, Nietian could not help but laugh. He wanted to hold it back, but he could not. Nietian thought that Wang Haorui, Mou, and the others that he had met were arrogant enough. Who knew that compared to this guy in front of him, they were simply insignificant. There was really no one else who could act like this. The smile on Nietian's mouth slowly stiffened, and his eyes suddenly became cold. Aokiki Lily knew that Nietian was going to kill Ning Wudao. She was frightened and hurriedly transmitted her voice to Nietian. Nietian City Lord, Ning Wudao is the Hall Master of the White Tiger Hall of the Transformation God Sect. All the disciples of the White Tiger Hall of the Transformation God Sect are in Anning City. You must not kill him. Just now, Aokiki Lily pleaded for mercy because she was afraid that Nietian would kill Ning Wudao on impulse. The Transformation God Sect was the top sect in the Nanshan region, and its strength was more terrifying than a first-rate empire. Its subordinate, the White Tiger Hall, was even more powerful than ordinary sections. Nietian ignored Aokiki Lily's warning. Ning Wudao had blasphemed Emorushi. Today, even if the sect master of the Transformation God Sect, Dongfang Yu, came in person, Ning Wudao must die. Oh, brat, it seems that you don't appreciate my kindness. Ning Wudao sensed Nietian's killing intent and smiled cold. He became even more arrogant and shouted, "Since you insist on dying, I beg you." Before Ning Wudao could finish, Nietian roared angrily. A terrifying sword will burst out from his body. The surrounding tables couldn't withstand the pressure of the sword will and were crushed into pieces. As the angry voice fell, the sword will in the space was extremely domineering. So strong. The crowd was shocked, and someone exclaimed. No one expected that such an ordinary young man could burst out such a terrifying strength in an instant. Boom! He stabbed with his sword. The sword was extremely sharp, and there was an ear-piercing whistling sound in the air. A vigorous sword shadow appeared and pressed down on Ning Wudao. This brat is so strong. He actually dared to attack Lord Ning directly. The crowd exclaimed. Their eyes were wide open, and they wanted to see what would happen to Nietian next. Although everyone admitted that Nietian was strong, they were certain that Nietian couldn't be a match for Ning Wudao. Ning Wudao was the first true disciple of the Transformation God Sect, and his strength had reached the 9th tier of True Element. Unless Nietian was an expert in the Spirit Wheel realm, he would only be slaughtered. Nietian looked like he was only 17 or 18 years old. At this age, no matter how strong he was, he couldn't be an expert in the Spirit Wheel realm. Chapter 565. As the blood-red shield appeared, a ghostly face shadow that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws vaguely appeared around Ning Wudao, releasing a strong, bloody aura. Nietianlin glanced at the blood-colored shield around Ning Wudao. His face was calm and expressionless. He twitched the corner of his mouth and spat out a word, "Kill." As the cold voice fell, the brilliance of the sword became dazzling. The mighty sword essence was like an invisible giant net that wrapped around Ning Wudao. A pure white sword light shot out, pierced through the void, and went straight for Ning Wudao. Boom! The sword essence was shocking. As it slashed down, there was a loud roar in the void. A violent sword essence bloomed in the air, almost capable of destroying everything. Crack! The next moment, a crisp sound was heard. The blood-colored shield around Ning Wudao had a crack on it. In an instant, it cracked like a spider web, and then it collapsed uncontrollably. Ning Wudao's pupils suddenly shrank, his heart trembled violently, and his face became extremely ugly. He did not expect that Nietian could actually break his blood transformation shield. He cultivated the second martial art technique in the Transformation God sect, second only to the Transformation God technique, the blood transformation technique. At this time, he had already cultivated the blood transformation technique to the 5th stage. The blood transformation shield was strong enough to withstand a head-on attack from a level 9 true element warrior, but now it was broken by a level 3 true element warrior. How could he not be surprised? At this time, Nietian was already at the level 3 true element. His body had awakened the power of 800 million stars. In addition to the power of the Proud Sword Essence and the Star Soul Sword Essence, the combination of the two sword essences was enough for him to compete with any warrior below the Spirit Wheel realm. However, if he encountered a Spirit Wheel realm warrior, Nietian could not fight him head-on. He had to rely on the power of the rank 4-star soul. Ning Wudao was only at the level 9 true element. Although it was only one stage away from the Spirit Wheel realm, the huge gap between them was like heaven and earth. Bang! With a muffled sound, Ning Wudao was hit by the sword and directly smashed to the ground. The ebony floor was smashed into pieces. Everyone widened their eyes and looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. With just one sword, Nietian directly hit Ning Wudao and sent him flying. How was this possible? He was clearly only at the level 3 true element. Pooh! Ning Wudao quickly got up and spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression was extremely ugly. How could he have imagined that the young man in front of him, who he didn't even bother to look at, would have such a terrifying combat strength? You are Dong Fongyu's disciple. Nietian took a step forward. His cold eyes were like steel needles, which made Ning Wudao uncomfortable. Ning Wudao was slightly stunned. He wiped off the blood at the corner of his mouth and revealed a ferocious expression. He shouted, "I am the chief disciple of the sect master. How dare you hurt me? The transformed God sect will never forgive you." Nie Tianling laughed. His expression was extremely vicious as he said indifferently, "You were so arrogant just now, and now you're bringing up the transformation sect. Are all Dongfang Yu's disciples this trash? Dongfang Du is a scum, and so are you. You know young sect master?" Ning Wudao was stunned when he heard Nietan mention Dongfang Du. "If you want to know, go to the other side and ask him yourself." Nie Tianling sneered. His whole body erupted with sword essence once again. His figure moved and rushed towards Ning Wudao. It was as if his whole body had become one with the sword. A gorgeous sword light flashed, and a terrifying sword essence completely broke out. "Brat, do you really think I am afraid of you?" Ning Wudao roared. The blood-dissolving secret art in his body was running crazily. Blood-colored yuan force constantly gushed out, covering the space with a layer of scarlet blood. Blood-dissolving hand. As the roar faded, the scarlet blood in the air condensed into a huge scarlet palm. Like a mountain, it pressed towards Nie Tian. Nie Tian felt the surging momentum whistling towards him, but his face didn't change at all. His figure was like a sword, and the overbearing and sharp sword light bloomed in the air. The scarlet blood palm in the air suddenly swayed, and then stopped in the air. Extreme netherworld kill. At this moment, Nie Tian's cold voice sounded. The momentum of his body suddenly increased, and the astral soul on the astral soul tablet turned into a ray of light. Endless astral energy surged out like a river bursting its banks. Dazzling starlight appeared in the space, and a bright light flickered and shot out. Pooh! A soft sound was heard. Ning Wudao's body swayed, and his eyes suddenly widened. He subconsciously raised both his hands, but his head suddenly flew up. Instantly, blood gushed out, and the scene was extremely bloody. The extreme netherworld kill, the power of a 4th-grade astral soul erupted, and Ning Wudao died on the spot. The face of the head that fell to the ground was filled with horror, surprise, regret, despair, and pain. Originally, Nie Tian didn't want to make a move. It was he who forced Nie Tian to make a move. He really deserved it. The bloody and horrifying scene made the crowd fall silent. Everyone's expression was petrified, and their faces were filled with horror as they stared at the headless corpse on the ground. Dead. Ning Wu Dao, the #1 disciple of the God Transformation sect, died just like that. After a few seconds, astonished voices sounded from the crowd. Countless pairs of eyes stared at Ning Wu Dao's corpse in disbelief. Ning Wu Dao, who was at the 9th level of true element level, was actually killed by Nie Tian in a single move. This result was too dramatic, and it felt extremely unreal. Courting death. Nie Tianling spat out these 2 words coldly, not even looking at Ning Wu Dao. He used his 4th grade astral soul in order to quickly end the battle. If he wasted too much time on Ning Wu Dao, it would attract a large number of people from the God Transformation sect, and that would be terrible. At this moment, among the crowd, there were a few figures quietly moving, wanting to leave the Origin restaurant. Are you trying to tip them off? Nie Tianling smiled coldly. His body trembled, and several rays of sword intent turned into sharp sword shadows, shooting out. Those few figures directly fell to the ground, dead on the spot. Seeing this scene, the crowd immediately stiffened, not daring to move. Nie Tian's strength was too terrifying. Even Ning Wu Dao couldn't withstand a single move from him. So how could the others dare to act rashly? Aoki Lily was stunned for a moment, and her expression finally softened. She walked to Nie Tian's side and said in a low voice, "Nie Tian, City Lord, let's go in and talk. Xiao Shan, keep an eye on everyone. If anyone dares to take even half a step out of the restaurant, kill them," Nie Tian said to Xiao Shan, then followed Aoki Lily to the 2nd floor. Xiao Shan nodded slightly. His body trembled, and a murderous blade intent filled the entire restaurant. The crowd's hearts trembled, and they looked at Xiao Shan with fear. This was also a person who could not be provoked. Nie Tian and Mo Rushi followed Aoki Lily to a private room on the 2nd floor. "Miss Lily, I'm sorry to have caused you trouble," Nie Tian said apologetically. Ning Wu Dao had died in the Origin restaurant, and the Dayuan Chamber of Commerce would also be implicated. Aoki Lily smiled faintly and regained her composure. She glanced at Mo Rushi with her charming eyes and thought to herself, "Why are the girls around Nie Tian so beautiful? This girl's appearance seems to be even more exquisite than Rui Qinyu." Even though Aoki Lily herself was a great beauty, compared to Mo Rushi, she still paled in comparison. This made her feel a little inferior. "Nie Tian, City Lord, why are you here?" Aoki Lily asked after a moment of silence. "I'm looking for someone called Mo Tai. Have you heard of him, Miss Lily?" Nie Tian did not hide anything and said directly. Chapter 566. "You're also looking for him?" Nie Tian was stunned for a moment before he asked. "You came to Anning City to look for Mo Tai?" Aoki Lily suddenly appeared in Anning City to look for Mo Tai. This made Nie Tian's heart sink. Did something really happen to Mo Tai? "Nie Tian, City Lord, take a look at this." Aoki Lily handed the name list to Nie Tian, unable to conceal her worry. Nie Tian took the name list. There were many names on it, and Mo Tai was one of them. "Miss Lily, what do these names mean?" Nie Tian asked with a frown. He didn't understand what the name list meant. Aoki Lily's expression softened. "The people on the name list are guards hired by the Dayuan Chamber of Commerce. Half a month ago, this group of people escorted something from the desolate Heaven Ancient Desert, but they mysteriously disappeared. Mo Tai is the captain of this group of guards." "Disappeared?" Mo Rushi exclaimed when she heard Aoki Lily's words. Her pretty face immediately became nervous. The desolate Heaven Ancient Desert was the boundless desert surrounding Anning City. It was rumored that the demon race lived at the end of the desert. Before Nie Tian came, he didn't expect the environment of Anning City to be so bad. The Mo family sent Mo Tai to this place because they didn't want him to return to Sumi's spiritual capital. Mo Tai definitely couldn't survive, so he formed a guard team and took some jobs from various chambers of commerce to barely survive. Aoki Lily glanced at Mo Rushi and guessed that the latter had a special relationship with Mo Tai. "Miss Lily, what are Mo Tai and the others escorting?" Nie Tian frowned, and his expression became serious. He guessed that the things Mo Tai was escorting must be extraordinary. Otherwise, Aoki Lily wouldn't have come in person. The Dayuan Chamber of Commerce was one of the 7 top chambers of commerce in the Martial Assembly Chamber of Commerce. Its business covered the entire Nanshan region. If Mo Tai was escorting ordinary goods, Aoki Lily wouldn't have appeared here. It was not uncommon for merchant caravans to be robbed. The guard were trading their lives for a living. Even if they died, it was their bad luck. Aoki Yuri looked at Nyetian, and her beautiful eyes flickered. After thinking for a moment, she finally said, "It's a cargo being escorted by a mysterious organization. I'm not sure what it is exactly. However, the price they offered was very high, and they clearly stated that they didn't need an expert to escort them. That's why we hired an escort team from Manning City. Originally, the identity of this escort team was extremely secretive, but I didn't expect that something would happen. The price is very high, but you don't want an expert to escort you." Nyetian pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, "Where did this mysterious organization ask you to transport the goods from and to?" "Pick up the goods from Barren Sky City and transport them to Tranquil City," Aokiki Lily said, nodding. Barren Sky City? Nyetian was taken aback. He had never heard of this name before. Aokiki Lily explained, "The Barren Heaven City is a small, remote city in the center of the Barren Heaven Desert. It's called a small city, but it's actually just a town. Not only are there human warriors in the town, but there are also demons. Because the Barren Heaven City is even more remote and dangerous than Tranquil City, very few people know of its existence. According to what you said, Emotai and the others went to Barren Sky City to pick up the goods, and then they disappeared mysteriously, right?" Nyetian frowned, feeling slightly uneasy. "Yes." Aokiki Lily nodded. Emo Rushi's little face stiffened, and she was about to cry. She didn't have a mother since she was young. If something happened to her father, she really couldn't bear it. Nyetian reached out and hugged her. With a determined look, he said, "Don't worry. Lord Emo Tai will be fine. Nyetian City Lord, this lady is..." Aokiki Lily saw that Nyetian and Emo Rushi were so close, and she couldn't help but ask, "Her name is Emo Rushi, my fiancé. Lord Emo Tai is her father," Nyetian said bluntly. "Oh." Aokiki Lily nodded. She unintentionally glanced at Nyetian, and there was an unconcealable disappointment in her eyes. She thought to herself, Nyetian City Lord is a dragon among men. Only a woman like Lady Rushi is worthy of him. Nyetian was worried about Emo Tai's safety. He asked, "Lady Lily, do you have any clues about the missing guards?" Aokiki Lily nodded and took out a compass. She said, "Every caravan of the Dayuan Chamber of Commerce has a dark steel magnet. If something happens to the caravan, you can use the compass to find the Chamber of Commerce." "Okay." Nyetian nodded. He finally had some clues. He said, "There's no time to lose. Let's go find them now." Aokiki Lily stopped Nyetian and said, "Nyetian City Lord, wait a moment. We're still waiting for someone." "Waiting for someone?" Nyetian was slightly stunned. Was there someone else besides Aokiki Lily coming to the Dayuan Chamber of Commerce? "Nyetian City Lord, to tell you the truth, Yifun is among the caravan that got into trouble this time," Aokiki Lily said with a pained expression. "Young Master Ding is here too." Nyetian was quite surprised. It seemed that his previous guess was too simple. The mysterious employer of the Dayuan Chamber of Commerce must be escorting a batch of unusual goods. Otherwise, Ding Yifun would not have followed them personally. No wonder Aokiki Lily had personally come to such a remote place like Peaceful City. Ding Yifun had gotten into trouble as well. "Young mistress." At this moment, the door to the room opened and a figure walked in. Guild Master Lu. Aokiki Lily looked at the newcomer with a much calmer expression. The newcomer was an old man in green. Nyetian recognized him. He was the Vice Guild Master of the Dayuan Chamber of Commerce, Lu Liankai, who had appeared at the Dragon Blood Martial Meet. He did not expect that even the Vice Guild Master of the Dayuan Chamber of Commerce would be alerted. It must be something extraordinary. Nyetian City Lord. Seeing Nyetian again, Lu Liankai was very surprised. At this time, the shocking deeds that Nyetian had done in Su Mi spiritual capital had not spread. Therefore, Lu Yankai and Ao Kiki Lily did not know that Nietian was already a red-clothed elder of the Alchemist Guild. Previously, it was rumored that Nietian had died in the chaotic abyss. Now that he had suddenly appeared, Lu Yankai was naturally surprised. Guild Master Lu. Nietian only nodded lightly as a greeting. Guild Master Lu, Nietian City Lord, is also looking for Mo Tai and the others. We have a helper this time, O Kiki Lily said. She did not know why, but with Nietian around, she felt inexplicably at ease. This young man was like a stabilizing force. No matter what the storm was, as long as he was by her side, it could be calmed. Lu Yankai sensed Nietian's strength. His eyes widened, and he could not react for a long time. In just half a year's time, Nietian's strength had actually reached level 3 of True Element. It was really unbelievable. Lu Yankai took another look at Mo Rushi and was shocked by the latter's celestial beauty. However, he was a spirit wheel realm warrior after all. His mental fortitude was incomparable to ordinary people. He immediately calmed down and sensed Mo Rushi's strength again. He was also very surprised. Mo Rushi looked to be 16 or 17 years old, which was a few years younger than Ao Kiki Lily. To think that she was also at level 1 of True Element. How terrifying. Let's go. Nietian was unwilling to wait any longer and nodded. Chapter 567. Nietian, Lu Yankai, and the others immediately went downstairs and prepared to go to the desolate Heaven City in the desolate Heaven Desert. Mr. Seeing Nietian coming down, Qiushan greeted him respectfully. Let them go, Nietian said faintly and signaled everyone to leave. The crowd was in an uproar and quickly left, unwilling to see Nietian and the others again. Nietian and the others did not delay and directly left the restaurant. When they were about to leave the peaceful city, an overwhelming murderous aura came from the front. Nietian looked ahead and frowned slightly. Dozens of warriors in black appeared in the air in front of them. Each of them had a surging aura and strong murderous intent, releasing a violent murderous aura. Transformation God Sect. Lu Yankai was stunned. He still did not know that Nietian had just killed the number 1 disciple of Transformation God Sect, Ning Wudao. Let's go. Nietian did not care about the people blocking his way and continued to walk forward. He wholeheartedly wanted to save Mo Tai, and his heart was filled with anxiety. At this moment, he really wanted to kill anyone who stood in his way. Dozens of warriors in black descended from the sky. Each of them was at least LV5 of True Element Realm. Their combined aura was not inferior to that of a Spirit Wheel Realm warrior. Did you kill Lord Ning? The leader was a warrior at LV7 of True Element Realm. His eyes were full of mockery. He could not guess how Nietian, who was only at LV3 of True Element Realm, could kill Ning Wudao, who was at LV9 of True Element Realm. Get lost. Nietian's eyes focused and spat out a word. Without any hesitation, the Heaven Slash sword appeared in his hand, and he directly thrust it out. Boom! A whistling sound was heard in the air. The sword's brilliance suddenly bloomed, and a huge sword shadow pressed forward. The extremely strong murderous intent made everyone's heart tremble. The person who spoke did not expect Nietian to be so tyrannical that he actually attacked directly. He wanted to resist, but it was too late. In the end, he did not even have the chance to scream and was directly cut into 2. The smell of blood in the yellow sand became even stronger. Lu Yangsai's pupils constricted abruptly as he was shocked by Nietian's shocking combat strength. He could also kill a True Element 7th layer martial artist with a single sword strike, and it would be even easier than Nietian. However, he was a Spirit Will practitioner, while Nietian was only at True Element level 3. The might of Nietian's sword shocked the other black-clad cultivators. Their gazes trembled, and some of them even retreated in fright. Stinking brat, do you know that we're from the White Tiger Hall of the Deity Transformation Sect? Even if you have 100 heads, you still won't be able to die from offending the Deity Transformation Sect. Even in this kind of situation, there were still some idiots who were not afraid of death who walked up and hooted. Nietion didn't even look at that person and stabbed out with his sword again. The sword intent was cold and decisive. The sword light fell, and blood splattered everywhere. The person who spoke died on the spot. Is anyone else who wants to speak? Nie Tianling asked coldly, his tone so domineering that it made people's hair stand on end. He was in a rush to save people and had no time to waste with a bunch of idiots. The dozens of black-clad cultivators felt a chill in their hearts when his cold gaze swept past them. They all trembled in fear and didn't dare to say a word. "Let's go," Nie Tianling said coldly and calmly passed through the other party's encirclement. The dozens of black-clad cultivators were like stones, not moving at all. Only when Nie Tian and the others completely disappeared in the yellow sand did they dare to let out a long sigh. "Quickly report to the hall master," someone shouted. The dozens of cultivators took the two corpses away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the desolate ancient desert, at the border of the 3,000 small worlds, there was a sandstorm as far as the eye could see, and dust filled the sky. This was a desert that spanned thousands of miles, and there was no sign of human habitation within 1,000 miles. Several figures walked in the desert, heading towards an unknown place. Aokiki Lily held the Heavenswell compass in her hand and followed the direction indicated by the compass, moving against the sandstorm. The sandstorm here was too thick. Walking in it felt like one's entire body was enveloped in sand, making breathing difficult. The group walked in the sandstorm for an unknown period of time. Suddenly, a dilapidated wall appeared in front of them. "It's here!" Aokiki Lily exclaimed excitedly. The compass in her hand spun rapidly. This meant that the Chamber of Commerce had met with mishap here. There's the smell of blood in the sandstorm. Nie Tian's perception was extraordinary. He actually smelled blood in the air, which made his heart sink. At this moment, Aokiki Lily also sensed something. She pointed to her feet and said, "The profound iron magnet is under the sandstorm. It must have been buried by the sandstorm." Lu Yankai nodded and did not say anything. He punched the ground, creating a sandstorm several meters deep. The group looked at the sandstorm and saw a damaged carriage. "It's the carriage of the Chamber of Commerce," Aokiki Lily exclaimed. Of course, she could recognize the Great Yuan Chamber of Commerce's carriage in the sandstorm. It seemed like the Chamber of Commerce had met with mishap here. When Mo Rushi saw this scene, her pretty face turned as white as a sheet. She was very worried that something must have happened to her father. Nie Tian hugged her in his arms and frowned. He also had a bad feeling in his heart. Lu Yankai made a grabbing motion in the void and lifted the carriage up. The instant the carriage emerged from the ground, the bloody scene made Nie Tian's eyes narrow slightly. There were several corpses hanging on the carriage. Although they were wrapped in sand, he could still see that the corpses were riddled with holes, as if they had been bitten by something. The smell of blood just now had come from these corpses. "Father!" Mo Rushi could no longer control herself and burst into tears. Nie Tian's face darkened slightly, and he hugged Mo Rushi even tighter. At the same time, he used his divine senses to check. There were a total of 3 corpses on the carriage and over a dozen corpses under the sandstorm. Lu Yankai and Xiao Shan checked the waste tokens on the corpses one by one. They did not find Mo Tai or Ding Yifan. This made the few of them feel a little relieved. Not finding the corpses meant that they might still be alive. Could they have been attacked by something here? Aoki Eureka calmed down and guessed as she looked at the carriage. That should be the case. Lu Yankai nodded and said, "The wounds on these corpses are not caused by essence force attacks. They must have encountered some kind of ferocious spirit beast." Nie Tian's gaze was on the carriage at this moment. He suddenly asked, "What is inside the carriage?" "Nie Tian, City Lord, did you discover something?" Aoki Eureka saw Nie Tian's strange expression and couldn't help but ask. Bang! Nie Tian didn't say anything. His body shook slightly, and a sword shadow struck the carriage. Instantly, a huge box appeared. What smell is that? The moment the box appeared, everyone felt a pungent smell of blood and frowned. The box was restrained by some kind of seal, and the power of the seal was damaged. Hence, a pungent smell spread out. This is what the mysterious employer asked you to escort? Nietion's expression suddenly turned cold. He took a few steps forward and walked to the side of the box. Nietion didn't wait for Aoki Eureka's reply. He directly smashed the box with his palm. Chapter 568. The box was smashed into pieces, and a small coffin appeared in front of everyone. The coffin wasn't big, only 1 meter long. It was sealed by iron chains and emitted an eerie aura. The coffin was surrounded by a layer of blood-red shield, and there seemed to be a powerful aura pulsating within it. What's this? Liu Liankai didn't expect the caravan to be escorting a strange coffin, and he immediately lost his voice. What a powerful wave of poisonous gas. The thing in the coffin seems to be still alive. Aoki Eureka's pretty face turned cold, and she was obviously shocked. Nietion looked at the coffin in front of him, and his eyes became solemn. Could it be the 5-poison blood infant? After a long silence, a name appeared in Nietion's mind, and he couldn't help but change his expression. Nietion City Lord, are you all right? Aoki Eureka couldn't help but ask when she saw Nietion's solemn expression. She had never seen him like this before. All of you step back. Nietion didn't answer her, and he growled in a deep voice. Aoki Eureka and the others were even more shocked, and they didn't continue to ask questions, and they all stepped back. Nietion let out a long breath, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. His gaze immediately became determined, and a long sword appeared in his hand. Without hesitation, he slashed at the small coffin. Clatter! The sound of iron chains being cut rang out, and the sealing iron chains on the coffin couldn't withstand Nietion's terrifying sword essence, and they were directly cut. As the sealing iron chains were cut, a dark green turbid gas was suddenly released, and it was extremely poisonous. Nietion immediately activated the wood blue sky armor to defend himself. When the dark green turbid gas dissipated, Nietion took a step forward, and he prepared to open the coffin. Swoosh! At this moment, a sharp force appeared in the air, and it attacked Nietion. Nietion's reaction was extremely fast, and he forcefully blocked the attack with his sword. He took a few steps back, and he immediately stood still. Kid, you can't see or touch what's inside. In the next moment, a figure descended. It was a skinny middle-aged man with a gloomy aura and a suffocating coldness. Nietion was slightly taken aback as he looked at the newcomer. He actually did not sense this person's arrival. And now, looking at this person face to face, Nietion was unable to sense this person's strength. One had to know that Nietion's mental strength had already reached level 53. Even a warrior at the peak of the spirit wheel stage would find it difficult to hide his strength in front of him. The person in front of him had restrained his aura to the extreme, and there was actually no trace of elemental energy undulations from his body. He was definitely a hidden expert. Liu Liankai and the others were also stunned. They had no idea where this person had come from. He was like a ghost, appearing out of thin air. The things inside are very dangerous. What if I insist on seeing them? Nietion's entire body released a chill, and he was already prepared to take action at any time. You can try, the skinny man replied coldly, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Nietion's expression slightly stiffened, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. In the next moment, without any warning, he stabbed out with his sword. The sword intent was biting cold, and the murderous sword pierced through the air. It actually made an ear-piercing sound as it rubbed against the yellow sand. You dare to attack? The skinny man was slightly surprised. He did not expect Nietion to actually dare to attack. The huge sword pressed down, and the skinny man's eyes were filled with horror. The yuan meridians in his body quickly revolved, and surging elemental energy surged out, turning into endless blood-colored air waves in an attempt to block Nietion's sword. Sure enough, an embroidered pillow. At this moment, Nietion finally sensed the skinny man's true strength. It turned out that he was only at the first level of true elemental energy. The corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile, and his killing intent was thick. Just now, when this skinny man attacked, Nietion could feel that his strength was definitely not strong, and he was only good at restraining his aura. This person's body was filled with Shi, and his entire body was filled with endless killing intent. If he was strong enough, that sneak attack just now would have directly taken Yetion's life. Restraining his aura, lurking, and sneak attack, all these characteristics pointed to one thing. This skinny man was an assassin. Facing an assassin, Yetion would never be merciful. Die! With a cold smile, Yetion's voice was like the final judgment, with an irresistible determination. Chua! The sword's shadow fell, and even though the skinny man tried his best to block it, it was of no use. His whole body was directly cut into two. Lu Yongkai and the rest only reacted at this time. They did not expect that this terrifying skinny man would be so weak that he was killed by Yetion in a single strike. It's not safe here. Let's leave immediately. Yetion no longer looked at the skinny man and directly kept the small coffin. His figure flashed, and he immediately left. A moment later, Yetion and the rest ran for dozens of meters, and in the rolling yellow sand, they could no longer see anyone's figure. Yetion City Lord, who was that just now? Aoki Lily was still in shock and asked anxiously. Yetion took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "If I'm not wrong, he should be the mysterious employer of your Yuan Chamber of Commerce. However, he was just a scout, and a large number of experts will soon appear in the desolate Heaven Ancient Desert." Employer? Aoki Lily was slightly stunned and said, "Did they already know that something happened to the goods? But I didn't inform them." The corner of Yetion's mouth twitched, and he pointed at the small coffin in his hand and said, "They will definitely secretly send people to transport such an important item. However, those people secretly following them are also dead." "How did you know?" Aoki Lily was stunned again. "I guessed," Yetion replied, and his gaze once again landed on the coffin in his hand. His expression immediately became solemn, and he thought to himself, how did Emperor Miao's forbidden art spread to the 3,000 small worlds? After calming down, Yetion let out a long breath and slowly opened the coffin. Hiss! Seeing the thing in the coffin, everyone gasped, and their expressions immediately froze. The thing in the coffin was only the size of a baby, and it also looked like a baby. However, its limbs were more like sharp claws, and its blood-red eyes protruded out. Its head was very big, and its ears were pointed. Its entire body was covered with dark patterns of different shades. The most shocking thing was that its entire body was a bloody mess, as if its entire skin had been torn off, and it was extremely bloody. It really is the 5-poison blood infant. Yetion looked at the thing in front of him, and his eyes showed not fear, but anger. The 5-poison blood infant was the forbidden art of Emperor Miao, one of the 9 emperors of the Heaven Realm. The method of refining the 5-poison blood infant was extremely cruel. It was to soak a newborn baby in the 5-poison pool, which was refined from 5 types of extremely poisonous substances. The baby's connate embryonic qi would fuse with the 5-poison qi, and after 100 days, the 5-poison blood infant would be able to survive in the 5-poison pool. Yetion once heard that Emperor Miao had actually thrown thousands of babies into the 5-poison pool to refine the 5-poison blood infant. In the end, the number of babies that survived could be counted on one hand. Moreover, even if the 5-poison blood infant survived, it would become neither human nor ghost. After that, the news of Emperor Miao refining the 5-poison blood infant spread in the Heaven Domain. The Snow Empress, one of the 9 emperors, personally listed the 5-poison blood infant as a forbidden art and forbade Emperor Miao from refining it again. Yetion had never imagined that he would actually see the 5-poison blood infant in the 3,000 small worlds. Chapter 569. The 5-poison blood infant suddenly moved. Although it was just a simple movement, like a curious baby stretching out its little hand to catch something, the surrounding air tightened. The air was instantly filled with the 5-poison qi. The rolling yellow sand immediately froze, and a suffocating aura rushed towards him. Yetion slightly leaned to the side and unleashed his terrifying sword intent. However, it was still too late. A wisp of the five poisons aura slashed into his face like a sharp blade, leaving a bloody cut on his face. Immediately afterwards, he felt a piercing pain spread throughout his entire body. Nye Tian frowned. The bloody mark on his face immediately turned black. Traces of the five poison chi entered his body through the wound and wanted to devour his yuan meridians. Nye Tian's yuan meridians were operating, and there were 9 dragon meridians surging in his body. He endured the immense pain and forced the 5 poison chi out of his body. Fortunately, Nye Tian had the 9-star dragon meridians. The dragon chi in his body could suppress all kinds of poisonous chi. Otherwise, he would have been seriously injured even if he didn't die. The 5 poison blood infant was so powerful that it was immeasurable. In his previous life, Nye Tian had heard that the 5 poison blood infant refined by Emperor Miao could turn a city with millions of people into a dead city with just a gentle blow. There was even a rumor that warriors below the heavenly evolution realm would immediately die if they came within 1,000 meters of the 5 poison blood infant. The 5 poison blood infant in front of him was far inferior to the one refined by Emperor Miao. Otherwise, a slight movement just now would have turned Nye Tian into a corpse. Nye Tian didn't dare to look at it anymore. Several sword intents surged out of his body and formed a small formation that wrapped the 5 poison blood infant to prevent the 5 poison chi from escaping. The 5 poison blood infant moved its tiny hands and legs like an ordinary baby. It looked harmless, but any simple movement of it represented a huge killing intent. Nye Tian estimated that even a spirit wheel realm warrior would be severely injured if he was hit by the 5 poison chi of the 5 poison blood infant. Nye Tian closed the coffin and carried it on his back. If he put it in his space ring, the 5 poison blood infant might die. Although it was an extremely poisonous creature, it was also alive. Furthermore, a baby that could be refined into a 5 poison blood infant must have an exceptionally strong innate embryonic chi. If such a person were to walk the path of martial arts, he would definitely be a stunning genius. Nye Tian City Lord, what is that? Seeing that Nye Tian had closed the coffin, Aoki Lily and the others only dared to walk over and ask in shock. Nye Tian did not answer. Instead, he asked, Aoki Lily, have you seen the mysterious employer behind this coffin? Seeing Nye Tian's solemn expression, Eureka Aoki shook her head slightly. This was the first time that the Great Yuan Chamber of Commerce was working with this mysterious employer. The latter was very generous, and the cost of transporting the goods this time was as high as 100,000 high-grade origin crystals. Furthermore, he had clearly stated that there was no need for elites to escort the goods, which was very strange. City Lord Nye Tian, what's going on? What exactly is inside the coffin? Lu Yankai also stepped forward and asked. Although he had only seen the 5 poison blood infant from afar, that suffocating aura made even a spirit wheel expert like Lu Liankai feel fear. If he had known that the mysterious employer was transporting this item, the Great Yuan Chamber of Commerce would not have agreed to transport it no matter the price. Nye Tian's expression was indifferent as he said, since you don't know, then it's better that you don't know. The mysterious employer behind this item is not someone that the Great Yuan Chamber of Commerce can afford to offend. Lu Liankai was stunned. Judging from Nye Tian's words, a force that the Great Yuan Chamber of Commerce could not afford to offend. Could it be that he dared to offend? Nye Tian did not explain too much. In fact, with his current status, he was indeed more terrifying than the entire Great Yuan Chamber of Commerce. The situation was somewhat clear now. There was a mysterious force that wanted the Great Yuan Chamber of Commerce to transport the 5 poison blood infant, but something went wrong halfway. In any case, Nye Tian would uncover the force behind it. What was the purpose of this force to refine the 5 poison blood infant in the 3,000 small worlds? Nye Tian City Lord, what should we do next? At this time, Aoki Lily also did not know what to do. The thing that had just appeared was too strange, and she was somewhat panicked. Nye Tian fell into deep thought. He now had the 5 poisons blood infant, which was a bait. The mysterious force behind it obviously wouldn't give up on the 5 poisons blood infant. The scrawny man just now was just a sentry. There would definitely be more powerful figures appearing next. Let's find them first. After thinking for a moment, Nie Tian made a decision. Ding Yifun and Mo Tai's corpses were not found at the place where the caravan had met with the accident, which meant that they were still alive. The most important thing now was to find the two of them. Nie Tian's expression was calm, and Aoki Lily also calmed down. She said, "This place is not far from the Desolate Sky City. If they are still alive, they will definitely return to the Desolate Sky City. Let's search there first." Nie Tian agreed and handed the 5-poison coffin to Qiu Shan. Although Qiu Shan's strength was only at the first tier of primordial element, he had the blade dragon arm and had abundant dragon qi in his body, which had a strong suppressive effect on the 5-poison qi. Therefore, it was more suitable for him to carry the 5-poison coffin than for Lu Yangkai. In the billowing sandstorm, the figures of the few people quickly disappeared. Not long after Nie Tian and the others disappeared, several figures appeared. Each of these people had a very strong aura, at least at the 5th tier of primordial element. The person in the lead was an old man in green. His expression was cold, and his body exuded a cold aura. Old Poison, the aura of the 5-poison blood infant has disappeared here. One of them stepped forward and said. His attitude was extremely respectful and even a little fearful. Old Poison, someone must have suppressed the aura of the 5-poison blood infant, making it impossible for us to follow it. Another person said, The old man called Old Poison nodded indifferently. A small coffin suddenly appeared in his hand, which was exactly the same as the one in Nie Tian's hand. These people did not just refine one 5-poison blood infant, but two. Old Poison raised his hand and slowly opened the coffin. Inside was a 5-poison blood infant. "My little darling, you can't be naughty anymore. Tell me, where did your little friend go?" Old Poison stretched out his hand, which was like dry bark, and touched the cheek of the 5-poison blood infant as if he was playing with a child. The 5-poison blood infant seemed to be a little happy. Its small hands randomly grasped, and traces of 5-poison qi filled the air. Old Poison's withered hand directly grasped the 5-poison qi in his palm and closed the coffin with a snap. He opened his palm again, and the 5-poison qi condensed into a phantom image of an infant, flying forward in the air. "Follow it!" Old Poison shouted cold, and immediately followed the 5-poison qi. They must find the other 5-poison blood infant. Chapter 570. The Desolate Heaven City was a small, lonely city in the Desolate Heaven ancient desert. Although it was called a small city, it was actually a town. It had a radius of only a few dozen li, and its population was less than 1,000. Moreover, it was a very messy place. There were human cultivators, dwarves, and even demons. However, those who settled in the Desolate Heaven City were people who could not survive in their own world, so they came to this desolate place. At this time, several figures appeared outside the Desolate Heaven City. It was Nie Tian and the others. I didn't expect that there would be a small city in this vast desert. Nie Tian looked at the city in front of him, feeling that it was unreal. More importantly, the Desolate Heaven City was surrounded by some drought-resistant dwarf trees. From afar, it looked full of vitality, a stark contrast to the desolate desert. "Nie Tian, can we find father?" Mo Rushi asked in a low voice with a worried face. She knew that things had become a little complicated, but she couldn't help worrying. Nie Tian held her hand tightly and said firmly, "Don't worry, we will definitely find Lord Mo Tai." Mo Rushi nodded slightly, feeling much better. Although Nie Tian said it with determination, he didn't have much confidence. If Mo Tai and the others weren't in the Desolate Heaven City, he didn't know where to look. In a vast, desolate heaven ancient desert, trying to find two missing people was no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. Nie Tian didn't know what happened to the caravan, so he could only find out after seeing Ding Yifun and Mo Tai. Nie Tian asked Qiu Shan to cover up the coffin. If others saw one person carrying a coffin, it would attract too much attention. After entering the Desolate Heaven City, Tian found that the streets here were not much different from ordinary cities. There was no dust on the ground. It seems that the dwarf trees in the outer area are not only beautiful, but also can block the wind and sand, Tian muttered. The desolate heaven city was like a paradise in the desert. The appearance of Tian and the others attracted the attention of the surrounding crowd. One by one, they turned to look at them, their eyes filled with intense hostility. The residents of Barren Sky City were almost isolated from the rest of the world. They didn't like outsiders visiting. Soon, Tian and the others arrived at the only tavern in desolate Heaven City, hoping to get some information from there. Tian immediately called over the waiter of the tavern. The waiter was a 14 or 15-year-old young man who seemed to be very clever. "Young master, are you an outsider?" The young man recognized the identity of Tian and the others with a smile. Tian didn't hide anything and nodded with a smile. "Little brother, I want to ask you something." "Young master, you found the right person to ask me about something. The desolate Heaven City isn't very big, so I'm well aware of all the big and small matters." The attendant chuckled with a shrewd look on his face, and he didn't forget to praise himself. Without beating around the bush, Tian took out a few supreme-grade origin crystals and handed them to him. Without beating around the bush, he asked, "Half a month ago, a caravan picked up some items from desolate Heaven City. Do you know about this?" When the attendant heard Tian's question, the smile on his face suddenly froze, and he suddenly shouted, "Shopkeeper, they're here." "Huh?" Tian's face darkened. He stood up and grabbed the attendant's neck with one hand. The attendant's face turned red. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't. Lu Liangkai and the others also became nervous, standing up one after another. What did the attendant mean by shouting just now? It seemed that the shopkeeper he mentioned had been waiting for them to appear. When the crowd saw Tian's action, they all stood up and looked at him with extreme anger. Seeing this scene, Tian couldn't help but be stunned. The people here were so strange. They all stood up for a single attendant. If this happened in other places, Tian probably wouldn't stand up even if he killed the attendant. He would just watch the show. The desolate Heaven City was isolated from the rest of the world, and the people here were different from the outside world. "Young man, let him go." At this moment, an indifferent voice sounded, and a chubby, white-haired old man appeared. He stared at Tian with a faint smile on his face. When Tian saw the white-haired old man appear, his divine sense immediately spread out, but it was as if he had fallen into a vast ocean, so vast that he couldn't see the bottom. He couldn't sense the old man's aura, which was very strange. Seeing that the old man didn't mean any harm, Tian let go of the attendant and said directly, "Sir, have you been waiting for us?" "Sort of." The old man chuckled and looked at Tian with a bit of surprise. He then said, "You're here to find someone, right? Come with me." Tian and the others were stunned. It seemed that the old man knew everything in advance and was waiting for them to appear. "Everyone sit down. It's just a misunderstanding." The old man waved his hand and said lightly. Everyone nodded respectfully and sat down. From this scene, Tian guessed that the old man's status in the desolate Heaven City was very high. He was definitely not just a tavern manager. After a while, Tian and the others followed the old man to a room on the second floor. In the room, there were 2 beds, each with a person lying on it. Their breathing was weak, and they seemed to be on the verge of death. "Father, Yifan." Seeing the 2 people on the bed, Mo Rushi and Aoki Yuri screamed at the same time. The people lying on the bed were Mo Tai and Ding Yifan. Tian was quite surprised. He immediately sensed Mo Tai and Ding Yifan's aura. Although weak, it was still stable. They were no longer in any danger. "Everyone, let these 2 ladies take care of the patients in the room. We'll talk in another room," the old man said indifferently. Without waiting for Tian and the others to respond, he opened the door and walked out. Tian and the others followed him to another room. "May I know how to address you, sir?" Tian knew that the old man before him must have saved Mo Tai and Ding Yifan. Hence, his tone became more respectful as he asked, "I'm Hui Yuan." The old man smiled faintly. "Old Hua, thank you for saving my friends. Nie Tian nodded slightly and bowed to express his gratitude. Hui Yuan laughed heartily and suddenly asked, "Little friend, are you an alchemist?" "Yes." Nie Tian nodded and admitted. Hui Yuan nodded and showed a look of approval. He said, "I didn't expect your mental energy to reach level 53 at such a young age. Your talent in alchemy is the first I've seen in my life. There hasn't been such a terrifying genius like you in the mini-summer world for thousands of years." Amazing. The word amazing revealed Hui Yuan's surprise at Nie Tian's talent. The corner of Nie Tian's mouth curled up slightly, but he didn't show much expression. Such a firm mind. How rare. Hui Yuan glanced at Nie Tian and sighed. He then looked at Qiu Shan. To be exact, he looked at the small coffin on Qiu Shan's back. "The thing you're carrying is very dangerous. Leave it to me." Hui Yuan looked at Qiu Shan and said indifferently. His tone was calm, without the slightest ripple, but it contained a domineering aura that no one could defy. Chapter 571. Hui Yuan directly asked for the 5 poison blood infant, which made Nie Tian and the others nervous. The 5 poison blood infant's breath had been sealed by Nie Tian's sword intent, but Hui Yuan could still perceive it, which showed that his perception was far superior to ordinary people. And just now, he directly pointed out Nie Tian's mental strength, which showed that his mental strength was more than 10 levels higher than Nie Tian's. He was at least a 6th-rank alchemist. A 6th-rank alchemist was an incredible identity. Why would he live in a place like the Barren Sky City? Qiu Shan and Lu Liangkai both looked at Nie Tian, obviously waiting for the latter to respond. Nie Tian calmed down and looked at Hui Yuan. His eyes flashed and he smiled. "Old Hua, since you also know that this thing is dangerous, I can't give it to you. If it is used by someone with evil intentions, it will bring disaster to the small Sumeru world." Disaster. Nie Tian's words were not exaggerated at all. If the 5 poison blood infant was used, it could destroy an empire in an instant. For example, find an empire's water source and let the 5 poison blood infant take a bath. Then, everyone in the empire, except for the spirit wheel experts, would be poisoned to death. "Young friend, do you think I is the person with evil intentions you said?" Hui Yuan was not angry, but smiled kindly, without any nervousness in his expression. Nie Tian looked at Hui Yuan with burning eyes. The latter did give people a very decent feeling, but as the saying goes, it is hard to know a person's heart from his face. Nie Tian estimated that Hui Yuan's lifespan was at least more than 500 years, which was much longer than his 2 lives combined, so he had to be careful. After thinking for a moment, Nie Tian said, "Old Hua, if I give you the 5 poison blood infant, what are you going to do with it?" Hui Yuan's eyes narrowed. He did not expect Nie Tian to know that the thing in the coffin was the 5 poison blood infant. Destroy it. Hui Yuan's expression was a little cold, and he looked a little guilty. The 5 poison blood infant was caused by I, so I is responsible for destroying it. Because of you? Nie Tian's gaze trembled as his entire body released a chilling, killing intent. The entire room was filled with a sharp, killing intent. Judging from Hui Yuan's words, it seemed like he was the one who refined the 5 poison's blood infant. If that was really the case, even if he had saved Mo Tai and Ding Yifun's lives, Nie Tian would still kill him. A 5 poison blood infant could mean the lives of thousands or even tens of thousands of babies. Nie Tian could not tolerate such an inhumane act. "Little friend, don't get too excited. I'm not the one who refined the 5 poison blood infant." Seeing Nie Tian's reaction, Hui Yuan knew that he had misunderstood. After explaining, he sighed and his body trembled. He slowly took out a token and placed it in front of Nie Tian. Why do you have this?" When Nie Tian saw the token in front of him, his expression stagnated and his face stiffened. Seeing that Nie Tian recognized the token, Hui Yuan's expression improved a little, and he said, "Little friend, since you're an alchemist, you must know that the token in I's hand is the guild's supreme token, the White Robe Order. I think that with this token, it should be enough for you to hand over the 5 poison blood infant to me." Nie Tian frowned, and his expression became strange. He was very sure that the token in Hui Yuan's hand was the Alchemist Guild's White Robe Order. But this was very strange. Nie Tian knew that only the White Robe Elder was qualified to have the White Robe Order, and there could only be two of them. Two White Robe Orders, one of which was in Elder Ye's hands, and the other was in Meng Fanshan's hands. Then where did the White Robe Order in Hui Yuan's hand come from? Was it fake? Impossible. Although Nie Tian had only seen the White Robe Order once, with his perception, of course he could tell whether it was real or fake. Could it be? At this time, Nie Tian suddenly thought of a possibility, causing his expression to change, and he immediately froze. Nie Tian became cold, took the token, and looked at it carefully. The simple and exquisite black iron token had the word Hua engraved on the front and the word White Robe on the back. There were also 7 golden flames. The word Hua on the front and White Robe on the back meant that this was a White Robe Elder surnamed Hua. The 7 golden flames meant that he was a 7th-tier alchemist. You are the previous president of the Alchemist Guild? Nie Tian's face trembled, and he said the guess in his heart. As soon as he said this, Qiu Shan and Lu Liangkai were both stunned. If it wasn't for Nie Tian's serious face, they would have thought that he was joking. Hui Yuan was slightly stunned. Then he nodded with a smile and said, "Little friend, since you have recognized I's identity, I will not hide it. I am indeed the previous president of the Alchemist Guild." Sure enough, Nie Tian was slightly moved. He really didn't expect to meet such a big shot in a place like the barren sky city, where even birds wouldn't poop. The dignified president of the Alchemist Guild, the top figure of the 3,000 small worlds, actually appeared in the barren sky city. It was really unexpected. After a while, Nie Tian became cold, but he said, "Elder Hua, I respect you as the president of the Alchemist Guild, but I don't recognize the token. I only recognize the person. If you want to take away the 5 poison blood infant with a token, forgive me for not being able to comply." Huh? Hui Yuan was slightly stunned. He didn't expect that after he took out the White Robe token and even stated his identity, Nie Tian still refused to hand over the 5 poison blood infant. Qiu Shan and Lu Liangkai were also stunned. They didn't expect that Nie Tian would actually say this. Nie Tian was the Red Robe Elder of the Alchemist Guild, and Hui Yuan was the former president. The relationship between the two could be considered as a superior and subordinate. Even so, Nie Tian still refused Hui Yuan's request. In fact, it wasn't that Nie Tian was stingy, but the 5 poison blood infant was too terrifying. If it was used by someone with ulterior motives, it was likely to cause a huge disaster. Although Hui Yuan used to be the president of the Alchemist Guild, who could guarantee that he was definitely a good person now. Hui Yuan stared at Nie Tian for a long time. Then not only did he not get angry, but he also laughed heartily and said, "Little friend, you're very good. If it were me, I wouldn't agree to give the 5 poison blood infant to someone I just met. How about this? You keep the 5 poison blood infant for now, and it won't be too late to give it to me when you think it's okay." "Thank you, Elder Hua." Nie Tian nodded slightly, and in his heart, he had begun to believe this old man. With Hui Yuan's strength, he could directly snatch the 5 poison blood infant. There was no need to waste words with Nie Tian. He didn't snatch it, which indirectly showed that he was not an enemy. "Elder Hua, you just said that the 5 poison blood infant was caused by you. What do you mean by that?" The atmosphere eased, and Nie Tian asked. Elder Hua sighed and thought of many things in the past. He lamented, "It's all I's fault for not teaching properly." Next, Elder Hua told them about the 5 poison blood infant, and at the same time, he also said some other things. Hearing this, Nie Tian and the others were stunned. Hui Yuan had only accepted 2 disciples in his life. One of them was Meng Fanshan, and the other was Wu Feng. Chapter 572. Several decades ago, another disciple of Hui Yuan, Wu Feng, happened to stumble upon a remnant of the 5 Poisons Manual in the Apothecary Guild's Compendium Pavilion. The method to refine the 5 Poisons Blood Infant was recorded in it, and he became obsessed with refining the 5 Poisons Blood Infant. Later, Hui Yuan found out about this, but his heart softened, and he only destroyed Wu Feng's Yuan Meridian and expelled him from the guild, forbidding him from ever stepping into Su Mi's spirit capital again. Later, Hui Yuan felt that he was old and weak, so he gave up his position and Meng Fanshan became the new guild leader. Hua Yuan left Su Mi's spirit capital and went to the desolate heaven ancient desert alone to build the desolate heaven city. A few decades later, the desolate heaven city had developed to its current state. When he left Su Mi's spirit capital, Hua Yuan brought the 5 poison scripture with him. He wanted to destroy it, but he remembered that it was the work of his predecessors, so he kept it. However, he didn't expect Wu Feng to steal the 5 poison scripture and secretly refine the 5 poison blood infant in desolate heaven city. According to Wu Feng's own thoughts, the reason he refined the 5 poison blood infant in desolate heaven city was to give his former teacher, Hui Yuan, a big surprise. He must have held a grudge against Hui Yuan for expelling him that year, so he used this method to get back at him. Wu Feng spent close to 20 years before finally refining 2 5 poison blood infants. He wanted to secretly transport the 5 poison blood infants, but he didn't expect that something would happen during the transport. It wasn't until the caravan transporting the 5 poison blood infants met with an accident that Hui Yuan found out about Wu Feng refining the 5 poison blood infants in desolate heaven city. The guild is unfortunate to have such a sinful disciple. This is Ai's fault. Hui Yuan was heartbroken and regretted not killing Wu Feng in the past. He found it strange that he had destroyed Wu Feng's Yuan Meridian. So how did the latter recover? There were many ways to restore a destroyed Yuan Meridian, but the cultivators of the 3,000 small worlds knew very little about them. Refining the 5 poison blood infant requires a lot of babies. There is no one in desolate heaven city. Where did Wu Feng find so many babies? Nie Tian's expression was cold and emotionless, but it was a sign of his extreme anger. As the president of the Alchemist Guild, Hui Yuan had actually taught a disciple like Wu Feng. This was not something that could be absolved of just by saying that he had failed to teach his students properly. Furthermore, he clearly had the chance to kill Wu Feng back then, but he had let him escape. This was also a huge mistake. All of these led to today's tragedy. Even if the deaths of so many babies had nothing to do with Hui Yuan, he could not escape the responsibility of being implicated. Other than Hui Yuan, the most hateful person was Wu Feng. His obsession with the 5 poison scripture had caused the deaths of so many people. His crimes were unforgivable. There are no infants in barren heaven city. Wu Feng must have an accomplice, Hui Yuan said in astonishment. At this moment, he seemed to have thought of something and said, "Before this, there was always a caravan that would come to the barren heaven city every half a month. They must have transported the babies from the outside world to the barren heaven city. Where is this merchant group?" Qiu Shan was also furious and asked coldly. "Definitely not." Without waiting for Hui Yuan to answer, Nie Tianling said indifferently, "Since Wu Feng has already refined the 5 poisons blood infant, he will definitely kill everyone who knows about this. The merchant group that transported the babies for him must have been silenced. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked the Yuan Chamber of Commerce to transport the 5 poisons blood infant. If I'm not wrong, the merchant group, led by Lord Mo Tai, will definitely be silenced as soon as they reach the peaceful city." "Yes." Lu Liangkai nodded heavily and said, "This is why the employer said that there was no need for an expert to escort them. It would be easier for them to silence them." At this moment, the door to the room was opened. Aoki Eureka walked in and said, "Nie Tian City Lord, Yi Fun and the others have woken up." Nie Tian. Hui Yuan secretly remembered this name. "All right, I'll go see them now." Nie Tian agreed and followed Aoki Eureka to another room. Nie Tian. Mo Tai called out weakly when he saw Nie Tian enter. "Lord Mo Tai." Nie Tian walked over and hugged Mo Rushi tightly. Mo Tai had a pained expression and said with a trembling voice, "Nie Tian, I really shouldn't have informed the Mo family." He was extremely regretful. Back then, he only wanted to return to the Ishumi spirit capital and return to the Mo family. But in the end, he was exiled to this place and caused Nie Tian and Mo Rushi to be unable to be together. If he had known earlier, Mo Tai would definitely not have informed the Mo family about Mo Rushi awakening a rank 9 origin spirit. "Lord Mo Tai, everything is fine now. You just need to rest well." Nie Tian comforted Mo Tai and went to Ding Yifun's side. Ding Yifan was much stronger than Mo Tai, so he recovered faster. At this moment, he could already sit up, so it was more convenient to talk to him. Young Master Ding, what happened to your caravan? Tian did not hold back and asked directly. Ding Yifan's face was a little pale, but his aura was still stable. He did not expect to see Tian again, so he was a little excited. After a long time, he calmed down and said, "Our caravan was escorting the goods when one of the carriages was opened for some reason. A monster came out and killed all of us. Captain Mo Tai and I escaped with our last breath and returned to the desolate Sky City. I don't know what happened after that." Hearing Ding Yifan's narration, Niet Tian's expression immediately became nervous. According to Ding Yifan, they had 2 carriages, which meant that there were 2 5-poison blood infants. But one of the 5 poison blood infants broke the coffin and killed everyone. Ding Yifan and Mo Tai were the strongest, so they managed to return to the desolate Sky City. "Oh no," Hua Yuan reacted, his calm face revealing a horrified expression. There was another 5 poison blood infant that escaped. Bang! 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 At this time, heavy and panicked footsteps sounded, and a panicked voice sounded. "Shopkeeper, something bad has happened. Someone destroyed the dwarf footwood outside the city." Niet Tian turned around and saw that it was the waiter from the tavern. Hua Yuan frowned, and his expression became extremely ugly. The dwarf tree outside the desolate Sky City was not only for greening, but also for blocking the wind and sand. Once it was destroyed, the desolate Sky City would definitely become a sand city. "Old Hua, let's go out and have a look." Niet Tian's expression was cold, and he signaled O Kiki Lily and Mo Rushi to stay, while the others followed him out of the city. Niet Tian and the others walked down the 2nd floor. Everyone in the tavern stood up and shouted in unison, "Shopkeeper, what should we do?" Although there were not many people in the desolate Sky City, they were very united and would not allow others to destroy their city. "Everyone calm down. I will go out and have a look first." Hui Yuan walked down and said calmly, "Let's go together." Everyone shouted, "Okay." Seeing that everyone was excited, Hui Yuan could only agree. Chapter 573. Outside the desolate Sky City, several figures were furiously destroying the dwarfwood forest outside the city. These figures were none other than Elder Dew and the others. "My master, it is time for us master and disciple to meet." Old Poison smiled sinisterly, his whole body exuding a suffocating chill. It turned out that this Old Poison was none other than Hui Yuan's other disciple, Wu Feng. Wu Feng and the others followed the 5-poison aura and arrived at the desolate Heaven City. He was certain that the other 5 poison's blood infant had fallen into Hui Yuan's hands. The 5-poison blood infant in Wu Feng's hand was the one that had escaped. "Old Poison, they're out." Seeing the crowd rushing out of desolate Heaven City, a person beside Wu Feng shouted, "Stop!" Hui Yuan took the lead. With a flash of his figure, he directly sent out a palm strike. An astonishing palm imprint appeared in the air, causing sand to fill the air and forcing Wu Feng and the others back by tens of meters. An expert at the spirit wheel stage, Niet Tian was slightly stunned. He could guess Hui Yuan's strength just by casually making a move. Even though Hui Yuan was Meng Fanshen's teacher, his martial arts skills were far below Meng Fanshen's. Meng Fanshen was definitely at the 9th tier of the Divine Will Realm, while Hui Yuan was probably at the 3rd tier of the Divine Will Realm. Actually, there was nothing strange about this. Some alchemists practiced both alchemy and martial arts, so they were naturally very powerful. For example, Meng Fanshen and Niet Tian. On the other hand, there were some alchemists who only focused on alchemy and took up martial arts as a minor, so their strength was naturally weak. Hui Yuan and Gu Yi were both in such a situation. "Let's stop." Wu Feng waved his hand slightly, motioning for his subordinates to stop. He then turned his malicious gaze towards Hui Yuan, a complacent smile rising from the corners of his mouth as he said, "Teacher, long time no see." Evil disciple. Hui Yuan was enraged, and his body trembled uncontrollably as he roared in a deep voice, "I regret not killing you back then and allowing you to do such heinous things." In the face of his teacher's scolding, Wu Feng didn't get angry. Instead, he smiled faintly and said, "It seems that you already know about the 5 poison blood infant. I would also like to thank Master for building the Barren Heaven City and providing me with such an excellent place to refine the 5 poison blood infant. Also, thank you for not destroying the 5 poison scripture. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know how to refine the 5 poison blood infant." Ha ha ha. As he finished speaking, Wu Feng actually started laughing wildly without the slightest restraint. "You evil disciple." Hui Yuan was provoked by Wu Feng and immediately felt his qi and blood churning. He actually spat out a mouthful of blood. He hated himself for not killing Wu Feng back then. He hated himself for not destroying the 5 poison scripture. He hated himself for not noticing Wu Feng refining the 5 poisons blood infant right under his nose. But it was too late to say anything now. Wu Feng had already refined the 5 poisons blood infant. The only thing they could do now was to stop him with all their might. Shopkeeper, seeing Hui Yuan vomiting blood, the people behind him were shocked. The desolate Heaven City was built by Hui Yuan. It was like a paradise isolated from the rest of the world, providing shelter for these people. They were grateful to him. TSK. It's not good for an old man to get angry. Hui Yuan was angered to the point of vomiting blood. Wu Feng was even more pleased with himself. He chuckled and said, "Disciples' alchemy skills were personally taught by Master. If I am guilty, then half of it should be Master's fault." Hui Yuan felt a stuffiness in his chest. He couldn't swallow it or spit it out. It was extremely uncomfortable. At this moment, Wu Feng's expression suddenly changed. He became furious and roared, "Hui Yuan, it's all because of you that I became what I am today. Meng Fanxun and I are both your disciples. Why did you pass the origin sky tactic to him and not to me? What's wrong with me cultivating the 5 poison scripture? I like it. Didn't you say that I was inferior to him? I must prove to you that I, Wu Feng, am better than Meng Fanxun. You're wrong." Wu Feng's roar was the anger that he had suppressed in his heart for many years. His face became ferocious because of it. Nie Tian slightly frowned as he listened. Hui Yuan's explanation was too simple. Nie Tian didn't understand some parts of it, but now he basically understood. Wu Feng's hatred was born out of jealousy. Maybe it was because Hui Yuan was biased towards his 2 disciples that caused the hatred in Wu Feng's heart. This kind of thing wasn't rare, but it wasn't the teacher's fault. Every disciple's character and talent would determine the teacher's attitude towards them. There wasn't a single teacher who could truly be impartial. Even in his previous life, Nie Tian's attitude towards his 9 disciples had been different. This required the disciples to balance themselves. If a teacher started to hate one disciple and treated another poorly, who would dare to accept a disciple? Therefore, when Nie Tian accepted a disciple, the first thing he looked at was character. If the character wasn't good, he wouldn't accept a disciple no matter how heaven-defying their talent was. However, Hui Yuan was also at fault as a teacher. He sensed Wu Feng's emotions and naturally should have tried to enlighten him. Clearly, he didn't do this well. When Hui Yuan heard Wu Feng's words, his eyes couldn't help but freeze. He looked dazed, as if he had lost all his beliefs. His entire person suddenly became much older. Ha ha ha! Seeing Hui Yuan's reaction, Wu Feng laughed even more arrogantly and roared, "Hui Yuan, are you regretting it? I knew you would regret it. I was waiting to see your expression right now." Wu Feng was at his peak. Seeing Hui Yuan's dazed expression with his own eyes gave him a perverted satisfaction. He is regretting it. At this time, a cold voice rang out. Nie Tian took a step forward and stared coldly at Wu Feng. "But he doesn't regret not treating you better. He regrets why he didn't kill you in the first place. As a disciple, you receive guidance from your teacher. It's fine if you don't want to repay him, but you actually want to bite the hand that fed you. What's the difference between a person like you and a beast?" The cold words caused Wu Feng's laughing face to stiffen. Only now did he notice Nie Tian's existence. When he sensed Nie Tian's strength and mental energy, the shock on his face deepened. However, Wu Feng quickly calmed down. A cold, killing intent flashed in his eyes as he coldly said, "Who are you? What right do you have to teach me a lesson?" Just because you are a beast and I am a human. Can't I teach you a lesson? Nye Tian didn't show any fear. He turned to Hui Yuan and said, Old Hua, it's not worth it to feel sad over the actions of a beast. When Hui Yuan heard Nye Tian's words, his body trembled as if he had been struck by lightning. He raised his head, and a sharp light once again shone in his eyes. Wu Feng's words earlier had truly made him grieve, but Nye Tian's words were like a hammer to his head, waking him up. It was indeed not worth it to feel such guilt for Wu Feng. Stinking brat, you're courting death. At this time, a furious roar rang out from behind Wu Feng, and a figure charged out. Chapter 574. That person's attack speed was extremely fast, and his palm was like a blade. If one were to be clawed by his claws, even steel would be cut in half. The crowd behind Nye Tian narrowed their eyes as they thought to themselves, he's dead for sure. The attacker's strength was at the 5th level of the True Essence Realm, while Nye Tian's strength was only at the 3rd level of the True Essence Realm. It was impossible for him to withstand this sharp claw. Nye Tian stood in place like a firm boulder, motionless like a bell. He felt the swift attack of the sharp claw, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Dying! A roar resounded, and several afterimages appeared in the air as sharp blades pierced towards Nye Tian. At this moment, Nye Tian's figure suddenly moved, but it was only a slight tremble. Suddenly, a shocking sword intent surged out from his body, surging like a tide. Nye Tian's entire body was like a sharp sword, erupting with an abnormally terrifying power. Boom! The sword light soared into the sky, and the blossoming brilliance of the sword contained a murderous intent. The moment it fell, the moment the killing intent exploded. Bang! That person was directly blasted away by the sword's shadow, drawing a line of blood in the air. After falling to the ground, his body twitched a few times, and he completely lost his vitality. The crowd's eyes stagnated, and they were directly dumbfounded. One sword, just one sword, directly killed a martial artist at the 5th level of the True Essence Realm. Nye Tian's strength was too terrifying. Hui Yuan was also stunned, obviously not expecting that Nye Tian, in addition to his monstrous talent in alchemy, was even more monstrous in martial arts. Only the most monstrous of geniuses could kill a martial artist at the 5th level of the True Essence Realm with the strength of the 3rd level of the True Essence Realm. Moreover, Hui Yuan noticed that Nye Tian's sword intent was extremely pure and extremely sharp. Even some swordsmen who had condensed their sword power might not be able to erupt with such a terrifying sword intent. Hui Yuan had seen countless swordsmen in his life, but compared to Nye Tian's sword intent, they were thousands of miles apart. At this moment, he realized that the youth in front of him was much more terrifying than he had expected. Reckless fool! Nye Tian retracted his sword will, glanced at the corpse on the ground, and said cold. The person behind Wu Feng felt a chill run down his spine. He asked himself if he had been the one to receive that sword strike earlier. It would have been very difficult for him to receive it. Kid, who are you? Wu Feng's eyes shone with a venomous light as a cold, killing intent enveloped Nye Tian. A tyrannical aura pressed down on Nye Tian. Nye Tian's entire body shook as he directly broke through the other party's oppressive aura. At the same time, he sensed that Wu Feng's strength was at the 3rd tier of the divine wheel. With his current strength, it was impossible for a 3rd-tier divine will ancient martial art practitioner to suppress him with his aura. My name is Nye Tian. Nye Tian's mouth twitched as he said his name. Nye Tian. Wu Feng was slightly taken aback. He did not know this name. He had always been refining the 5-poison blood infant in the Barren Sky City. Even if Nye Tian's name spread throughout the 3,000 small worlds, it was impossible for him to have heard of him. Suddenly, a person behind Wu Feng let out a strange cry and pointed at Nye Tian, shouting, You killed Deputy City Lord Wan. Deputy City Lord Wan? Wan Qirong. Nye Tian was stunned. How did this person know about this? Only a few people who entered the chaotic abyss knew that Nye Tian had killed Wan Qirong. Mo Feng, Qiu Xiaofeng, and Tawny were all in the know. And these 3 people were all from the Ling Xian Heaven Pavilion. You are from the Ling Xian Heaven Pavilion. Nie Tian immediately understood, and the corner of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. The Ling Xian Heaven Pavilion was really all-pervasive. Wherever he went, he would run into their people. Previously, Nie Tian had killed a skinny man who was good at sneak attacks. He was obviously an assassin. Wu Feng and the others were filled with killing intent, and their auras were very similar to assassins. No wonder Wu Feng could obtain so many babies to refine the 5-poison blood infant. It turned out that he had the support of the Ling Xian Heaven Pavilion. "Kid, you're very smart." Wu Feng smiled coldly, then said, "But smart people don't live long. It's the same for you. Today is the day you die." Ling Xian Heaven Pavilion? Hui Yuan frowned slightly. He had never heard of this name. He had left Su Mi's spiritual capital a few decades ago, and the Ling Xian Heaven Pavilion was a newly risen assassin organization. It was normal that he did not know. An assassin organization. Nie Tian looked at Hui Yuan and said simply, "Wu Feng, you actually joined an assassin organization?" Hui Yuan's heart sank. "Mf." Wu Feng laughed sinisterly and said, "My teacher, think about it. If there was no one behind me, who would provide me with so many babies? Lord Pavilion Master has given me a new lease of life. He was the one who healed my Yuan meridians and stole the 5-poison scripture from your hands. If it wasn't for Lord Pavilion Master, your good disciple would have become a beggar on the streets. Even if you become a beggar, it's still better than becoming a murderous demon." Hui Yuan growled, his heart filled with guilt. "Teacher, you're really ruthless." Wu Feng sneered coldly. Suddenly, balls of dark green gas were released from his body. His evil smile turned ferocious as he laughed maniacally. "Master, it looks like our master-disciple relationship has come to an end. Today, let us fight to the death." 5-poison chi. Nie Tian's eyes trembled. His entire body lit up with the extreme wood jade sky armor to prevent the poison from invading his body. At the same time, he shouted, "Everyone retreat! Retreat!" Hui Yuan also felt that something was wrong and shouted. The crowd was in an uproar. Unable to withstand the terrifying aura, they all retreated. "Evil disciple, your teacher will clean up the sect today?" Hui Yuan roared angrily. His aura surged, and circles of white light appeared around him. They rippled out like ripples, making him look holy and dignified. When Nie Tian saw this, he immediately remembered that Meng Fanchen had released a similar white light to save Jean de Bayo a few days ago. "Good," Wu Feng shouted. His face became even more gloomy. "I want to see whether your heavenly origin tactic is stronger or my 5-poison scripture is stronger." The 5-poison scripture was a martial art technique passed down from one of the 9 emperors of the heaven realm, Emperor Miao. Its rank was definitely above the heaven rank. Even if Wu Feng had only obtained an incomplete version, it could not be underestimated. 5-poison palm. Wu Feng's figure moved, and he struck out with his palm. His aura surged, and green energy condensed into a strange green palm in the air, pressing down on Hui Yuan like a mountain. Yuan Tian Shui. Facing the violent palm, Hui Yuan chose to defend. The white light around his body shone brightly, forming a white giant with both hands supporting the sky. Boom! A loud sound rang out. The yellow sand within a few hundred meters stagnated and then flew around like sharp blades. Hui Yuan's body sank a little, and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. "Ha! Old man, it's time for you to die." Seeing this, Wu Feng laughed maniacally, like a crazed devil. Even his face became sinister. It was hard to imagine that killing his own teacher with his own hands would give him such a strange sense of pleasure. Guild Leader Liu. When Nie Tian saw that the situation was turning for the worse, he shouted. Immediately, he unsheathed his sword, and a 100-meter-long sword shadow slashed towards Wu Feng.